quantitative political science or social research, qualitative political research. I've also taught gender and politics for a term at the University of College of London. And so this is a topic that I is near and dear to my heart, or not the topic, but the general field is something that I deal with on a pretty regular basis. In fact, I've just finished up an EU-funded project that was looking at the backlash to, as was earlier pointed out, the backlash to progress on things like equality, democratization, secularization, idea of human rights being for everybody, and some people really being attached to hierarchies and unjustified forms of power because they benefit from them. And then, yeah, so yes, this is something I'm deeply involved with and think about on a pretty regular basis.
Well, we're happy to have you. A cut
Yeah.
above my normal guess, but we appreciate it. And last but certainly not least, Stardust. Who are you?
Hi, I'm Stardust. Sorry, did I peek on my microphone? I am just a lowly streamer. I have been in the streaming space for a few years now, though. Used to debate within the extremist, like far right kind of spaces, and then I moved away from that. Moved over to more influencer on influencer drama. Still did some debates, and now I'm kind of more behind the scenes. I do editing for people. I'm working on some video essays, but I do think that this topic is very important to me. Um, just as a woman and as somebody who's seen the state of women's rights in other countries and third world countries and countries where it's like incredibly backwards, right? And that doesn't change that. Like, obviously the West is the best place to be as a woman, but that doesn't mean that there aren't like huge improvements that we can make. So yeah.
Okay, and with
Yeah.
that, let's get started. Ash, you got your camera again? I just want as many people on camera as we can, so if that's okay, Mr. Nelson. Um, well, hopefully he gets here soon. Maybe he's taking a little break. But
I
we'll
can
get to.
still
Oh,
hear
there we
you.
are.
I'm just
Speak
refilling
of
my
it.
coffee, buddy.
Okay, so tonight, welcome, 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 boys and girls, to yet another episode of WIC TV. It's a cross ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. And tonight, we're going to be talking about women, okay? The evergreen topic that you all love to hate, to love, hate to love to hate, okay? Are women held accountable enough by society? Are they let off too easy? Are they not held to the same standards that we hold men to? Is that even a bad thing if it's true? Marlo wanted to come on and argue her piece about this, and Nelson has agreed to join her. So first, we're gonna hear from Marlo and Nelson, and then we're gonna give it to Stardust and Dr. Winters, and that's where we'll start. Then we'll get to
You can
opening
call me
questions.
Christy because it's really unfair for me to have a title being used and no one else's. So
I
it's
can
yeah,
I
I
can give
just
You
them all
earned
titles. We can
that
have
title.
Baron
You
true.
can call me
Marlowe.
Mr.
You can have
Nelson. I think it's
Sensei
unfair to
Nelson.
not give
No,
you
we can
your
do it. No,
title.
okay, Christy. Thank you. Fair enough.
Yeah,
We'll
yes,
go with
please.
Christy. Okay.
It's a bit more
Marlo,
democratic.
open us
And
up.
if you were my students, I'd make you call me Dr. Winters, but we're all just peoples here.
Well, I hope you make the other team your students today, but we're finding out.
If I do
Marlo,
poorly
go
enough, I'll
ahead.
start calling you doctor.
All right.
Marlo, go ahead, please.
Well, I'm certainly hoping to get schooled here. So the position that I take is that due to the fact that women are socially, emotionally advantaged in society, they exhibit antisocial behaviors that tend to fly under the radar of things like aggression physically, and like resource hoarding, stuff like this, right? The kinds of antisocial behaviors that we see in men are easily legally adjudicated, right? The kinds of antisocial behaviors we see from men are things like rape, murder, domestic violence, etc., etc. But the kinds of antisocial behavior that we see from women tend to be more manipulative, social emotional tactics, right? That don't technically break legal rules, but that definitely violate social norms. And due to the fact that men as a class are generally socially, emotionally disadvantaged, they often don't have any means to detect these aggressions. They don't have any means to respond to these aggressions. And I think that
It is women's responsibility to hold women accountable for the kinds of antisocial behaviors that women exhibit.
Okay, thanks for being here. We'll get into it as we go. Ash, please.
Yeah, so I'm shooting for more of an internal critique of women because I do think that they struggle with accountability in general. I think they reject most disparities, though, as being male centric. So if men are within, like, let's say 5 degrees of separation of, if they're actors within like 5 degrees of separation of a given socio-political issue, like let's say the legal system is primarily male centric, then we can't really address disparities in sentencing. We can't address disparities in family courts because, of course, men set that up. Men were primarily the voting population something like 100 years ago. So there's nothing that we can say about the way that law treats men, the way law treats women, perhaps favorably or advantages them. We can't address it because, of course, men were voters. So I'm shooting more for, during the debate, I'm going to be shooting more for things that women do to each other and what women do to powerless people under them, children, but especially young boys.
Okay, I'm eager to hear your arguments. Thank you for being here. Next up, we have Stardust. Stardust, please.
Okay, so I'd like to start off with a couple of things here. The opposition or opposing our opposition is the argument that they're presenting is built on three premises that are false. So I want to break down those premises that are false. First, they're using the wrong words. They keep using the term antisocial behavior. In the real world, antisocial implies sociopathy or criminality. But what they are actually describing is just indirect aggression, gossip, social exclusion, being catty. And men do engage in indirect aggression as well. In 2026, the biggest platform for indirect aggression isn't a school cafeteria, it's the internet, right? We've got trolling, doxing, harassment. Men are basically the masters in this. They have dominated that field, right? So women, get your numbers up. Pretending this is some unique female sin that we need to police is just ignoring reality. Second, their proof, the study that which this is based on, is older than the internet. They are basing their entire worldview on a study from 1992 that looked at 15-year-olds. So they're literally asking us to base adult laws, maybe not laws. They did concede pretty quickly that they don't want laws in place for indirect aggression, but they want social consequences, which itself is indirect aggression, based off of a study on 15-year-old kids from 30 years ago. So that is a category error. We don't judge adult women based on how sophomores in high school act. Third, and most importantly, the idea that women aren't held accountable is a myth. The opposition thinks that women are getting a pass. The reality is the legal system punishes women's indirect behavior harsher than men's violence sometimes. We have receipts for this. There is the girlfriend problem in federal law. In drug cases, you'll see a kingpin, the guy running the violent cartel. He usually cuts a deal with federal officers because he has intel to trade. He gets 5 years. His girlfriend, she's just living in his house. She takes the phone. Maybe she runs and gets groceries for him. She's not really aware of all of the details of his drug business, right? She has no intel to trade because she wasn't running the show. So what happens is the kingpin ends up getting 5 years and she ends up serving a mandatory 15 years. We literally lock women up for longer for their social proximity than we lock up men for their actual crimes in that case. We've got example B in family court. Data shows that if a mother is accused of alienation, which is just indirect aggression, talking trash about the dad, etc., she is twice as likely to lose custody of her kids than a father who is accused of physical abuse. So I think that's pretty insane. There are men who there's documented physical abuse, documented sexual abuse, and because a woman accuses him of abuse or the children document abuse, and he counter accuses of alienation, her likelihood of losing custody of those kids is multiplied by 2. So, so no, I disagree with all of these premises. Women aren't running wild without consequences. We are already policing their words, their relationships, and their survival instincts. And the last thing we need is a hyperfixation on women's indirect aggression when we already have one.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here. We'll get into as we go. And last but certainly not least, Christy.
Yes. So I want to thank everybody for showing up and participating in the discussion. We can call it a debate, discussion. Hopefully, it won't be too contentious and be more of an exchange of ideas. But yeah, obviously, we disagree on some things. And I guess, the question that we're being asked is whether or not women are held accountable enough. And I'm going to suggest that up front that this framing kind of misses the core issue. The problem isn't whether women need to be held more accountable, which itself is a very vague term. In my opinion, the core problem is that adults as a whole, we're not taught or supported in handling conflict very well. When anyone, regardless of their gender, lacks conflict resolution skills, they will fall back on indirect strategies like gossiping, avoidance, reputational pressure, and informal punishments, rather than a direct constructive communication or finding a detente if there's someone you just can't get along with. So, what wouldn't make sense to me is, on the one hand, condemning indirect aggressions like gossiping or peer pressure or exclusions as being antisocial, which again, we were contesting that term itself as being appropriate. But then, what I assume, on the other hand, is proposing that the solution is that women should engage in these indirect aggressions to socially police other women. So if women are being bad, we need to gossip about them and exclude them. I don't see that you can say a behavior is harmful, but then prescribe that same behavior as the cure. So if the goal here is healthier relationships for everybody and the less harm, and that's my goal, then the answer isn't more social punishments or more regulation. It's more conflict resolution norms that everyone, regardless of gender, can engage in. Good conflict resolution skills are, learnable. It starts with clear, direct communication, boundary setting without retaliation or shaming, accountability tied to specific behaviors, not character attacks. And it depends on all of us doing some emotional regulation internally, the ability to admit when we're wrong without defensiveness. It involves empathy and perspective taking, even if you disagree with someone's perspective, and a willingness to compromise and seek to repair relationships rather than endlessly punishing that person. That's like for individuals. On a structural level, it requires institutions and processes that handle harms consistently so individuals aren't forced to police each other informally, which it sounds like the other side want us to do. I don't see how we reduce indirect aggression by multiplying it. You reduce it by building a culture where direct, emotionally mature adults engage in conflict resolution where it's safe, expected, and supported for everybody.
Okay. And with that, I guess I'll open this up with the question to the other side. Is that what you are advocating for? That they're, as Christy said, that they're held more informally accountable by these metrics. Is that actually what you're advocating for? I guess the question would be, what do you mean when you
Mm.
say
Mhm.
accountable?
I actually am my position in line with the framing that Christy just gave. The idea being that core conflict resolution skills are fundamental to society and to pro-social behavior. And I also think that this is something that women tend to learn at a higher rate, much more quickly. Women have a better verbal reasoning skills. They are more, they're verbal earlier than their male counterparts, and they tend to develop their ability to use words over violence, right, much more quickly. And like a lot of the behavioral studies show, I'm sure my friends here have seen, that like when it comes to indirect aggression, like women are going to favor things like gossip, like we've established. But I think that my point is that when we see women failing to use core adult conflict resolution skills, what that tends to result in is acceptance, and it tends to result in encouragement, rather than the kinds of aggression that men engage in, which are dominated by legal repercussions, right? And so my claim is that when women see women engaging in indirect aggression, women should be using core, like those fundamental conflict resolution skills with one another. Because we
But
are
you're claiming they're
more,
not, just to be clear, you're claiming
for
they're
the
not
most part,
currently
like,
for the
and
most part.
maybe like you guys can back me up or dispute this. I see much more of a yes, queen, as you should, um, culture among women in our social groups when like someone can be describing her experience on a first date, and like obviously dates with strange men are a very contentious issue, right? High risk of, you know, violence to my body, etc., etc. But I've heard so many occasions in which a woman was saying, yeah, and then I just ghosted him, or I bullied him, whatever. And instead of like calling out those indirect aggressions, women are saying, yeah, I can't believe he was being such a creep anyways, or blaming it on the man, in the equation, out of question, out of hand. And that's anecdotal, obviously, but that's what I'm seeing. And
Okay.
it's something that I think that like I want to take responsibility for with my friend groups, but I don't see that happening to the degree that I think it could change our culture in a positive way.
Is it
Okay,
possible to ask a clarifying question?
of course, it's open. Just to be clear, this is open
Yeah.
discussion. You guys can talk. If
Okay.
you start yelling at each other or talking over each other, I might jump in, right? But other than that, go ahead, please.
Yeah, because I had a bit of an aha moment in the course of this when it comes to your position because Marlo, because you're on screen right now, because I was trying to get everybody's new names correctly. I was a little bit confused initially when you said socially advantaged and emotionally advantaged because being a political scientist, which is a subset of sociology, everything except the psychology fields are really just economics is a subset of sociology. And I thought you meant in society. But what I think you now mean by that is that women have greater social networks and we have deeper interpersonal relationships, especially with other women. And we know that men tend to report having fewer friends, and then the closest friends they report tend to be women, whereas women report that their closest friends are women. So women are friends with women, and men are friends with women, but men aren't really friends in a close emotional way with men. And so I think I just want to make sure I'm understanding you correctly now, because I'm going to adjust my view of your position. If what you meant is that women have more social support and um, uh, um, opportunities or interactions, and also emotionally we do see more emotional maturity, not always in behaviors but just generally at a rate compared with men as a group, not individual men. But is that the correct way to read those terms?
Yeah, and I'll even double down on that emotional advantage that you're describing. And like obviously when we're talking about men and women here, we're really talking about like down the middle biological sex. We're talking in generalities here. And so in general, a woman is someone with a menstrual cycle who is required by her body and to evaluate her emotional state and her emotional reactions, and to experience like periods of introspection, and to experience periods of literal periods of self isolation, right? Like our body asks us to think before we say something, and ask myself, am I really this angry, or am I experiencing like a chemical like fluctuation right now? And I think that even that is something that adds to the just baseline level of emotional maturity that we see in women. And so I think that because we have that increased ability, that means that we have an increased responsibility in society.
And can I ask also, are you like in your early 20s?
That's very sweet of you. I am 30.
Okay, okay. Because I think a lot of this too, and I don't want to get ahead of Stardust, but a lot of this, the 1994, I think it was, it might have been 92, but the Sex Roles article that you linked, the stuff that they report on indirect aggression, we see that in childhood and juvenile behavior, we see more of this kind of mean girl thing. But both girls and boys age out of
Yeah.
these behaviors. And so to say women, we're including 70-year-olds, we're including
Yeah.
people like me in their 50s. And so I think that it's an overgeneralization to talk about some of women's strategies. I understand why we do it because it's convenient, but we also have to recognize that if our cohort is of a younger cohort, we can't really speak to what it's like to be in your 40s or your 50s or your 60s. And a big part of the population who are men and women and people who are cis and non-binary are in that group too. So as we say, we're using very broad
Yeah.
brushstrokes here.
I,
But okay, I've been talking a lot, so I'll give other people the floor.
I do believe that the updated, the more recent studies show that, yes, by the time men and women enter the workspace, that their indirect aggression rates are basically equal. And it's really context dependent, when it varies, when there's a disparity. If you are, I would say again, like in agreement, if it's about that women, if this is about how women are, I guess, conditioned or socialized to be more in touch with their emotions, and then also they're socialized to engage in conflict resolution. They know how to do it, and maybe they don't do it as often. I could see what you're saying there. I understand what you're saying about ghosting. I definitely agree with you there. I tend to encourage my friends and family members to if you're gonna cut something off, just cut it off, right? But I also think that that's also like context dependent as well, right? We don't know every single case. And a lot of this Yas Queen kind of attitude is really much more online than it is in person. It's a very online phenomena. So you'll see, like, in general, if we're looking at all of society, it's not really a overwhelming thing, I guess.
So just so I'm clear on what's being
Yeah.
argued here, Marlo, your claim is that there is a kind of like a Yas Queen culture, not just online but offline. Correct? Is that your claim?
Yeah.
Yes, and that women aren't uh, holding themselves accountable socially. So when they have a date and they behave poorly, instead of the people around them, the women around them, and their social group saying, you were kind of a you were kind of an asshole to this person. They'd be like, "Nah, he deserved it, queen," in a way that is different and substantively different than how men interact within their groups. Is that your argument?
That's a good
Oh, my
question.
argument is definitely that because we have a higher social capability and better social networks and an increased emotional maturity on the, like, as a baseline, that we deserve to be held to higher standards, and that's the most progressive thing for us to be doing.
Okay.
I don't know if I agree with deserve. I think that men should be deserve to be held at an equally high standard, even if they're less capable, right? I mean, that
I
would be
mean,
my stance. But
I think that it's important to, like, here's an example, right? I'm not going to hold a student who's cognitively impaired to the same, like, degree that I would hold a student who is, like, fully participating in general education, right?
Hold on.
I'm not
Hold on. Are
saying
we saying that men are are impaired
I'm
somehow?
saying
Like,
that men are socially emotionally impaired. Yes. Hello? That's, like, not a question, is it?
yeah, sorry,
Listen.
I'm supposed to be moderating, but I have questions now. But go ahead, please, people.
That's okay. I'd like to push back briefly on the idea that because men have less social support, this explains the lack of indirect aggression. I think that men's social, or sorry, an equivalence of indirect aggression. I think that men's lack of social support speaks to some kind of exclusionary criteria. Whereas if you're going to have a wider social network, I think that necessarily implies that you have lower standards for who you keep around you. Even when it comes to non-legal structures, right? Because we went over how aggression is tempered by law. Indirect aggression, as you're calling it, I prefer to say antisocial behavior. Antisocial personality disorder is named after antisocial behaviors. That doesn't precede the word antisocial or preclude the word antisocial. That just means things that are, contrary to customs and laws of a given society. Churches still operate like this. Fraternities, specifically professional fraternities, still operate like this, where antisocial behavior is in some way punished. If you act negatively within a church, This might be mediated, sure, by whether or not you're a whether or not you're a prominent donor to that church. But if you're behaving negatively, the pastor will come talk to you. Depending on the size of the church, the deacons will come talk to you. There will be men's groups that you're encouraged to attend or potentially restricted from attending the church if you disagree or if you refuse to. You're not necessarily legally you still have a choice, but within the social structure, it's not presented to you as a choice. Your obligation is to behave better within your social standing. So men's social structures in many ways mirror the law in this regard. So I just wanted to push back against that
So
women
I guess
just have
my question
greater
is,
social support.
yeah. So my question is, like, did you miss the entirety of my opening statement? Because I feel like we just like completely missed a couple of things here about the
Responding to a
antisocial,
specific phrase.
like a few
I'm
premises.
responding to it because you referred to antisocial behavior. What we're really talking about is indirect aggression because antisocial means sociopathy. But again, antisocial personality disorder comes from the word antisocial. We didn't invent that word to describe a personality disorder. We named the personality disorder after the word that existed prior to describe sets of behaviors that we found contrary to our laws and customs.
Right. But generally that means like criminality, right? And so
Why?
No,
Yeah,
contrary
well,
to
if
the
you look
laws and customs.
yes, contrary
No,
to the
why?
laws and customs. Yeah, well, that's generally antisocial. If you look at people who have antisocial personality disorder, right? That we're not talking about women who display indirect aggression when men also display indirect aggression at equal rates in adulthood, right? Like when you look at antisocial personality disorder, you're looking at a medical criteria, right? And these people are people who have
Right,
trouble.
which is why I'm
These are
not
people who
talking
have
about
trouble
antisocial
in
personality disorder.
Well,
okay.
let her finish, and I want to hear from Marlo. And then we'll get Christy in
People
here.
who
But yeah,
have
let her.
trouble functioning in society, who create problems in society, right? Who are and sometimes bring danger upon others, right? This is a pretty big difference, right? When we're talking, so that's why I'm opposed to the use of antisocial as a descriptor here.
Is that because to me it sounds, and help me make sure I'm like understanding your position on the word antisocial. You're in opposition to the word antisocial being used here because you are expressly linking that word to the sociopathy that is named for
Yeah, so
those
like
behaviors.
obviously like harassment, right? Intimidating people, right? These are things that generally are punishable by law, right? So
Right.
yeah.
So do you think that there is such a thing as someone who is doing something that is against social behavior that doesn't qualify as
I
sociopathy?
think it's misusing a medical term. So I think
I
it's
think
a
I categorically disagree with
Yeah.
that. Like, I don't think that that word belongs in the exclusionary. Here's another example, right? I could describe a child as oppositional or as defiant, but that does not necessarily mean that the child is diagnosed with oppositional defiant disorder, right? So like I can also talk about a kid being inattentive or hyperactive without the kid being diagnosed or even meeting diagnostic criteria for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, right? So like what we're talking about are things that could be within the diagnostic criteria for an antisocial personality disorder, but what we're discussing are those elements within that diagnostic criteria that would qualify in some to sociopathy, but without the entire summative DSM-5 or whichever DSM we're on now.
Sure.
Is qualifying them for a medical diagnosis. So like,
Sure.
I think we can
What would
agree
be
that
examples of antisocial
behaviors.
behavior? What would be an example of
Well,
antisocial behavior to you?
if I may.
Is farting in a crowded room
Well, just-
antisocial? Can we just have a baseline agreement on that? That's my only question. Can we just
So
agree that
actually,
farting in a crowded room is antisocial?
it's it smells. I mean, it might be a medical
Yeah,
issue.
it's not really.
Well, I
So,
want
I
to I
mean,
want to
we
give it to Christy.
actually
Go ahead,
as
Christy.
yeah, as part of our research for this, Stardust and I have, like, a 20-page document that we put together, and it includes so the literature that you gave us, from psychology actually is contrasting indirect aggression versus direct aggression. And in indirect aggression, this refers to behaviors that are intended to create harm, but it's through manipulation, damage to social relationships, reputation, so gossip, rumor spreading, social exclusion or ostracization. Again, this comes from adolescent and teen data a lot of times, or reputation sabotage, withdrawal of friendship or social support, indirect retaliations, and that's contrasted against physical or direct aggression, which is hitting, kicking, choking, using weapons, threats, physical restraints, sexual violence, these types of things. So physical aggression or direct aggression is harm or the threat of harm to bodily persons. And antisocial behavior are actions that violate social norms or the rights of others. So it's I think it would be more precise if we contrasted direct versus indirect um, aggressions, or because antisocial can include psychological gaslighting. It can also be stalking. It can be doxing. It can be vandalism. Antisocial. At least, like I came from the UK. Or I lived in the UK for 8 years, where they had antisocial behavior orders, ASBOs, and kids would be given ASBOs because they were engaged in staying out at the park late and getting in fights and vandalizing things and stuff. So, I mean, from our side, when we did our research, we really were looking more at the paradigm between indirect aggression, which would be characterized with like the mean girl thing, versus boys and bullying. And I also want to say I have to go back. I know we're rewinding a little bit, but I really don't think men are inherently less emotional capable or socially capable. I think socialization, not biology, plays the biggest role, because
I agree.
I've known men who are incredibly empathetic, who have a deep amount of caring and a real ability to communicate, but they were taught these skills. And so I think the real obstacle is that boys are told to be a man. What is be a man? I don't know if you've seen The Mask You Live In. It's on YouTube, or it was the last time I checked it. And it's documentary just devoted to boys' mental health. Why do boys and men commit suicide at higher rates? Why aren't they in therapy? Why can't they talk about their feelings? And it's because they're told from a very young age, be a man. Don't cry. Don't show emotion. Conquest women. Get that money. Get on that grind set. Get that Ferrari. Get that Bugatti. And you're defined by your status. You're defined by your sexual conquest. You're defined by your money, by your stoicism. And you constantly have to prove your masculinity. You are never masculine enough. And men police each other way more. I think men police each other so much more than
Would
women do.
you
Look at
just real
Andrew
quick,
Tate
Christy?
as an
Would you
example.
say
Yeah.
that men hold each other accountable more?
No, I think they police each other, and that's different. I
What's the
think
difference?
yeah, so, policing is, "That's gay." Policing is, "You're not man enough. You're not strong enough. Do you even lift, bro? Do you even code?" It's always this unattainable goal of the perfect man. I mean, I really think of Andrew Tate as the ultimate police. What he does to his audience is he polices their masculinity, and they never are masculine enough for him, right? Because he's the alpha, and in his own mind, right? I don't think he is. I think he's a dirtbag. But I think that that's far more toxic and far more of a causal mechanism to stunt men's ability to even describe the emotions they're having. Women have language for emotions because we're allowed to, and we express it and we learn, right? But men are really repressed in terms of even being able to get through giving a language to what they're feeling, because too many boys aren't are taught that anything besides anger or stoicism are unacceptable for a man. So I just want to say I think that society and other adults are more to blame for the problems that we create in our children than our biology. So
Okay.
yeah.
I
Okay.
am curious to their unless you have more.
No,
I
no, no.
am
I
curious to
like
their
I've been talking a lot.
sure. I am curious to your response on Christy mentioned there's a difference between policing and accountability. Is that something you both would agree with? Why or why not? I do think that's an interesting thread to
Yeah, I
travel down.
absolutely agree that policing and accountability are wholly different. I think that policing is more concerned with like an abstract set of standards that are like I would say like more aesthetic. Would you agree with that, Christy, than values based?
Sure. I mean, society and other women, like, we definitely are fed an aesthetic, and then also there's a peer pressure, or there can be that. As you get older, honestly, it does go away. But for girls and younger women, it's more of a thing. Yeah.
I want to focus on what you talked about, where because like so men have a much higher suicide rate than women, and but women have a much higher rate of diagnosed depression than men.
Mhm.
And I think that this comes into a little like this covers a little bit of the ground that we're working on here. So we talk a lot, we can kind of create a masculine feminine binary of like externalization and internalization. And I think that would be fair to do, right? Like masculinity is making the world into a place that submits to you, right? Building yourself up into something that can be domineering over the world. And then femininity tends to be more about aligning yourself with your surroundings, right? It's viewed as like a submissive thing, but it's genuinely a social thing, right? It is an ability to understand when it makes sense for me to say, I can change that about myself, or for me to say, I won't change that about myself. And that distinction of internalizing, right? Internally adjusting yourself to the world is something that is necessary for participation in society, and it's something that women are traditionally much better than men are. Um, and so when we talk about like accountability, what I see is that like we as women have this immense opportunity to take huge responsibility for the face of our culture. We've got this skill set of adaptability and of emotional maturity. And I see us more often than not weaponizing it when men are frustrating, because they are, and they will be, because they are human beings, rather than assuming a position of privilege, which we do have socially and emotionally, not financially necessarily, and most of the workplace stuff is on the up, but not all, you know what I mean. um, and I think that place of social and emotional privilege puts us in a position of responsibility for ourselves to a greater degree than men.
I need to
Do
pipe up because you touched on my thesis, and I have to. If you talk about somebody's doctoral thesis, they have to talk about it. So I want
Is
to
that the
come.
rule? Okay, go ahead.
And Stardust, do you want to go first? But
No,
it's
no,
right
you go
on this
ahead.
line.
You go
Okay.
ahead.
So this was the whole thing about separating out biology from social stuff and political attitudes. And I'll be as brief as I possibly can because I don't want to dominate the conversation. However, in the 1970s, psychologists did want to find the ideal traits of the ideal man and the ideal woman. And they asked white undergraduate Americans because apparently we are the experts at everything. But what they found was, as you said, people who associate masculine, the ideal man, is independent, competitive, energetic, in control of things. And the ideal woman is communal. She's kind, helpful, cares about others, pays attention to other people's needs. So then, like, this is awesome. Now we're going to be able to take these traits and we'll be able to measure how masculine or feminine someone is. But the thing is that when they gave those ideals back to students and asked them to rate themselves on it, they didn't get two categories. They got four. They got people who are high masculine, low feminine, low masculine, high feminine, and low masculine, low feminine. They're like, well, this is weird because we have four categories, but only two things. So what does this mean? It means that these aren't traits associated with sexes. These are human traits that tend to appear or are considered valuable in two different sexes, right? So it's a gradient. It's not from masculine to feminine. It's from more masculine to not masculine. It's from more feminine to not feminine. And since the 1970s, people have changed that language and they call the masculine traits agentic and the feminine traits communal because that describes what the behaviors are valuing. And when I use those measures to predict people's voting behavior, what I found was that agentic women would vote for the right-wing party because they tended to be managers and business owners and professionals. And men who were high on communal, aka feminine measures, would vote for left-wing because they valued community and other people. And so when I included those measures in their political behavior, the sex variable stopped having any effect because sex was just a really bad proxy for these value systems or other things. So I would say that it's much more it's a little more complicated, and that agentic and communal are a more accurate way to describe it than masculine and feminine. And now I
Okay.
really will shut the fuck up because I'm
You're
talking
fine.
I'm
so
so
much.
No,
curious
this is
now.
useful. This is
Yeah.
useful. But before we go on, I do have a couple super chats to read, right? And the questions for the panel, and then I want to ground it a little bit. This is all very high and mighty, right? But I want to ground it a little bit because my audience is like, what are they talking about? So I want to ground it into some more real world examples, and then I want to give the mic to Stardust to let her take some of the first questions here and have a chance to say anything she wants. But let's get through these super chats real quick. $10 from Karen D. Hippie to say, do you think men have more emotional intelligence now than 20 years ago?
Mhm,
Yes, absolutely.
Elaborate.
mhm.
I mean, just the fact that we've destigmatized. I mean, not completely, but the destigmatization somewhat of like seeing a therapist, being in touch with your emotions. I think definitely has attributed to men being, I guess, yeah, more emotionally. What was the word you said you used, Wick?
And
Sorry.
have more emotional intelligence, I think is
Yeah,
what they
having
said.
more emotional intelligence, even the acknowledgement of there being emotional intelligence it feels like it's a relatively new thing. I don't know, but maybe I'm wrong on that one. So, yeah.
Okay.
I
I
think
guess.
more a
Oh, go
plurality
ahead.
of masculinities is more acceptable now. I think you can be acceptable. You can be seen as masculine in a lot of different ways, more so, much more so than you could have in the 1970s.
Okay.
So,
I want to ground this a little bit, and kind of bring it into the world that I inhabit, so maybe we can, my audience can maybe kind of grasp what we're talking about here. Even though my audience is very smart, right? Sometimes they need a little context before we go through and can get things in here. A lot of the complaints that I hear, right, in this space, is that if you are a woman and you behave poorly, more people will forgive you and more easily forgive you than if you are a man. Do we agree with that statement? Do we agree with that kind of like
I disagree heavily,
general?
but
Okay,
yeah.
why? And then we can start the discussion there.
So, I
Because
guess like
that as just to be
yeah.
clear, before I give it to you, like that has been my anecdotal experience.
I guess what would be your examples of that?
I don't want to look. I don't want to start
I'll
too much
jump in
drama,
here.
right?
Listen,
Go
no,
ahead.
listen, I'll jump on that grenade happily. Lav is still permitted in the server despite making a sexual assault, pedophilia allegation against Hassan some number of years ago. Nobody brings it up. Nobody brings it up in casual conversation. I think that she probably ought to be in prison for that for probably another 5 years from when that began. But it's normal to speak with her. I don't think it's normal to talk with friends who engaged, for instance, in sexual assault. These are not the same thing at all. They're barely even comparable. But I'm trying to set a foundation for what we tolerate within our own spaces. I mean, the truth, there are churches that will not tolerate having child molesters around, even if they've been let out, even if they've been, reformed or whatever have you. They're certainly not going to be in the same room as your kids or in the
unless they're in the
uh,
pulpit.
unless, well, yes, that's usually before they've been exposed, however. But once exposed, they're not permitted.
Okay. I
And
mean, lab is
Go
Sometimes.
one
ahead.
example for
Go
sure.
start us, please.
I
I
mean,
would
can I?
say
Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
Oh,
You
yeah,
go
I would
Yeah,
just say that lab is I would say that okay, there I think that has to do a lot with also how attractive somebody is, right? Like are we going to like deny that attractive people get away with like way more shit than unattractive people? I think most people in the space whenever I hear about lab like this is just interpersonal drama, but like um whenever I hear about it, like there's always like, oh, she's crazy, right? And but despite her being crazy, she's like incredibly intelligent, right? And despite her also being crazy, like she also has had many wrongs done to her as well, right? I'm not going to sit here and pretend that she hasn't had a ton of wrongs done to her. So I mean, like, I don't know. I think people are complicated. I think people are willing to forgive people that they view are very hot. She's very hot, so you know. So I mean, that's what it is. I've seen women who, I mean, I feel like I've seen and been on the receiving end of some pretty crazy stuff as well. So I don't know, like maybe I just don't think
Can
it's
I?
really, yeah. If we're
Yeah,
just
can
if
I
we're focusing
just?
it on this space, then yeah, it's going to be
Yeah.
a little bit weird. Yeah.
Can I just give maybe a personal example? And you guys can judge me if you want for this, but this is true. And if we're going to have an honest conversation, I think it's important to have an honest conversation. Um, when I moderate, I am much less harsh on women than I am on men. And the reason I am that, right, the justification I give for that is there's less women in this space. I want more women to participate in this hobby that I have. Um, there are uh, a value to having a woman on the screen, right? That is different than having a man on the screen. I'll let you guys figure out what that value is. And it's just something that I noticed that women are often allowed to get away with things in conversation that men simply aren't in this space. And I do it. I find myself guilty of this, right? So when we're saying women aren't being held accountable enough, I kind of have to agree, at least in that narrow scope. Well, I know, Marlo, you've been nodding your head and shaking your head and doing your hand motions. So go ahead. I want to give the mic to you, and then I want to hear from Christy and things like that.
Sorry,
So,
I'm just an active listener. That is never an indication that I want to speak.
oh, fair enough.
I genuinely think so. Like, I'll give some anecdotal examples as well. What I find is that, especially right now, let's focus on online dating, right? Because I think that's a big, huge swath of the American population that is involved in this. I'm not dating anymore, but like during the times when I was, my girlfriends and I would get our apps out and like kind of show each other what was going on, and my experience was that at least with specific regards to online dating, women were extremely willing to treat men like products, to objectify them, to kind of like pressure test them in kind of antisocial ways. Not to throw that word back into the conversation, but in less than pro-social ways. And obviously there's a power imbalance there, right? Like women are the object of the pursuit in that equation. And like men have, there's now like a lot more attention paid to the like genuinely violent and aggressive behavior of men towards women. But now that we've kind of like seen that hit our social view, right? We're watching what men do with where we see a guy on a date in a you know with a single girl, and like people are paying attention to that. But like these women were being so fucking mean. And then like congratulating each other over how mean they were being. And like that's exactly what I'm talking about, right? Where
Hold on. Do you not think
we
men do this as
of
well?
course you do.
Locker room talk, right? We've got
Of course
locker
they
What's
room
do.
talk.
the
Yeah.
so what's the
Yeah.
difference?
I'm saying that women should hold women accountable for that behavior.
Well, men don't. Like, we will, like, hey, dude, look at this woman I'm actively lying to get with, right? And they'd be like,
Yeah.
hell yeah, brother. Like, do you think that we hold each other accountable?
No.
Okay, so again, what's
I'm
the
not
difference?
making a comparative statement
Okay,
between
okay.
the
But
degree to which men are held accountable and the
but it
degree to
is
which women are held accountable.
but it is necessarily a comparative like topic, right? You're
Why?
talking about women
No,
aren't
not in the
held accountable
slightest.
enough, right? What is that in
No, you could do an
comparison
internal.
to?
You could absolutely do
To
an
the
internal critique,
degree,
and this
yeah.
is the issue with the previous panel related to the subject on whether or not men are coddled. It's simply on a basis: how are men treated? You don't have to say things are worse for women and therefore men are coddled. You don't have to
Right.
say men engage in poor behavior and therefore women don't engage in unaccountable behavior. You ought to present some. Surely you could try at least, to not do a comparison because we spent so far, I believe, nearly the past hour talking about men.
And like,
I do think that when we're talking about being held accountable, right? Um, I guess you could, say it's an internal review or something like that, but I just even don't find that accurate, right? I just don't find it accurate. If we talk about
My
dating,
fir-
I mean,
Sorry, go ahead.
if we talk about dating within just the online sphere and Yas queening, I mean, yeah, Yas queening is a very online phenomenon, but yeah, if we're talking it like if we're talking about non-terminally online people, I don't think that bears out.
I think
Online
it's
is real life, to be
well,
clear.
I mean, who
Yeah,
isn't online?
I don't want to hear
Even
from
old
Christy
people
real
are
quick.
online.
Go ahead,
Yeah, me
Christy.
too, actually.
All right, so I'm gonna rewind a little bit. I don't know who it did you say it was this Liv? This Liv person? Is that the
Lav,
one
yeah,
Lav is the
Lav?
Lav.
Okay, yeah, I'm
title.
not I'm more of a YouTuber than a Twitch person, so yeah, and I'm not but, I would just point out I can't speak to that specific instance because I don't know that person or anything about that situation, but I would point out that
Blessed be ignorance. Oh, sorry. Go
yes,
ahead.
exactly, sometimes it is. I would point to the fact that since second wave feminism, you've seen a real challenge of the idea that younger boys who are like 15, 16 who get with adult women are lucky. Right? I think that before there was and this is part of the patriarchal thing, like, "Yeah, go get her." Like, "Yeah, you got your teacher when you were 15," like the whole Macron Brigitte thing, right? That would have been praised in the 1970s as being a man, right? Now that has entirely flipped. And I mean, I'm a big true crime fan, and I see quite a few women coming across as, teachers who abuse their and it's talk about abuse. It's not slept with their students, it's abused their students, right? And those kinds of crimes were not prosecuted in the past. And I think feminism has opened up a space for that kind of recognition of abuse equality, which in a bad way, but also very much needed. Like that's the equality you don't want, right? But it's the equality we need so that we understand abuse is abuse. And I would say the same thing about domestic violence when it's the wife toward the husband. Right. So feminism actually created a space for men to say, "Hey, I get abused too. Where are my shelters?" And the answer is, yeah, you're right. You need shelters too. You need support too. Not that you need to suck it up and don't let your woman beat you around or push you around. Right. So I just want to kind of get back to that and say, having these debates and calling people who are abusing abusers is a step forward in our society. And I think it's a good one. I think, Marla, I understand your heart is in the right place. I totally get it. I just don't know that. I think Dust and I would both agree that informal structures are probably not the best way to do it. I think we need education. This should be taught in schools. This is something churches should teach. This is something synagogues should teach. This is something, like you should learn conflict resolution and to not hit people in your houses of worship. I'm an atheist, right? So I wouldn't get it there. But I think that, we don't, just because girls do have space and are socialized to be more articulate and to be more connected with their emotions, doesn't guarantee it, right? Your parents, what your parents do and what you model might be really fucked up. And so we need to break cycles. And I think that if you're going to have a health class about biology, then you need to also teach healthy relationships. What are the signs? What are the red flags of abusers? What is gaslighting? How to get out of a situation if someone is starting to love bomb you and then they want to control you. All that kind of stuff is stuff that I think we need.
Can
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, can I
And then
ask
yeah, go
on
ahead.
that? Can I ask on you, Christy, please? When you say we need education, on that, do we think that we should educate men or young boys and young girls in the same way, or should we tailor the education for conflict resolution, and have it tailored to young men specifically versus tailored to young women specifically, right? Like one of the criticisms I hear, and you can tell me if you agree with this or not, is that and I hear this all the time from the red pill space and the manosphere and things like that. Their claim is that the American education, Western education, has been feminized, that it
Mm,
fails young men, right? That it's
mhm.
failed men because we can look at the stats. Men aren't going to college anymore, right? Like they're not going to school, right? They're failing to meet expectations in the educational field, right? Is there any truth to that?
So two things.
Sure.
One, again, I'm picturing that a scene from The Mask You Wear, and it's a teacher in an inner city. He's black and he has a mix of students. And he talks about, and these are boys who are just getting into their teen years, 12 to 14 maybe. And he's talking about how when they get to school, they got to put their mask on. They got to they can't show their emotions to their friends, right? And so they're talking about this social pressure it's kind of peer pressure thing about, hey, everything's fine. I can't talk to my friends about how bad I feel. And they said, what is under that? And they're talking. These boys are writing down anger, pain, fear, things that they can't show each other, right? Because there's this weird thing that happens when we become teenagers, right? So I do think that it is important for boys to have a variety of role models. A lot of different, like Doctor Who is a masculine role model as much as any sports figure. He's a nerd, right? He solves problems through science, but he's still very masculine. And so I do think that there are different challenges. I think the core skill set is the same, but the challenges that we face are different.
Fair
And
enough. So to
and what
answer the
was your
question, it would be the
Yeah,
same core kind
yeah,
of education skills being taught, but you might tailor it to the
yeah,
audience just to reach them
yeah.
better. Correct?
And can you remind me of the second part
The
of the
second
question?
question is, when we talk about education in general, um, has it not
Oh, the
been feminized?
feminization.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I guess I don't necessarily see, like, everyone's going to, at least in the United States and across Europe, more people are going to school just generally. There's never been so much access to higher education. If we would just want to take 2nd and 4-year degrees as our metric, what I see instead is that since the 1960s, caps have come off women and girls. And it's not that boys are falling behind, it's just that girls are finally catching up and showing our true potential. If
Well,
we
well,
would have
to
had 1,000 years of having college education, maybe these rates would have been stable the whole time. But so, I mean, if we're always saying it has to be 50-50, I think that, there's a question here of, well, boys are now a smaller percentage relative to girls or men to women. But I think a lot of it too is just that women are finally freed, and they're allowed to
okay.
actually that potential.
I guess, do you think it's a problem then that at least with the US enrollment in colleges is about 58% of women make up the undergraduate fields and it's rising, right? Like
Mhm.
the gender gap is rising. Do we feel that's a problem or do you think that's just like
Yeah.
a correction for historical imbalances?
Well, I think it's kind of a mix because remember, before the GI Bill, who went to college? Before the 1940s, and that was, who benefited from the GI Bill. We didn't have enough colleges to have those kinds of things, and a high school degree was enough. Actually, not even getting my grandparents didn't finish high school, and they built farms and ran businesses, and they did fine in life. My dad went to 1 semester of college before he dropped off. My mom never went to college, but 50 years ago, you could do that. So the world has changed a lot. I do think that this whole idea of, the kind of world that men were growing up in, the suicide rates were worse and the depression was worse. We just didn't measure it, as we didn't
Okay.
measure depression back in the day. And so I think that just on the issue of things being feminized, as if that's bad. That's also part of the
I
manosphere
understand.
thing, right? We have
Yeah.
to degrade what is feminine, and being feminine is being in touch with your emotions and talking about them. And that's is a way that they get policed. This is how men end up policing each other in that way. So
Any
that's what I
responses
say.
to that before we get to the super chat questions? Go ahead.
I'm
No
gonna
res-
hold off till
I did
after
have a
the super
Okay.
question.
chats.
Sure, go
I
ahead.
did
Ask
have a
your question.
question. Yeah, no, but it's like, oh, completely unrelated and completely
Okay.
related to,
Well,
yeah,
let's
so,
I'll get to the
yeah,
super
so,
chats and then we'll get there.
yeah.
So $10 from Malik. Demames. I don't know how to say that last bit, man, but Malik, let's just say. $10. We can all agree that Amber Heard is a piece of shit that abused Johnny Depp. There's a large contingency of women who still defend her. Shouldn't women be more likely to stand against her as victims of domestic violence?
I'll respond to this one. If you look at the UK court case, and this is like, I don't really like to debate. Honestly, like an abuse case probably shouldn't be like in the public eye and televised the way that it was, right? But if you look at the UK court case where they sued for defamation, they sued The Sun. The Sun is a publication that could have easily gotten away with saying, well, we say, crazy things all the time. Who would take us seriously, right? But instead, they did choose to say, chose to make their argument that, no, this is not defamation, or this is, yeah, whatever. It's not because this is based on like reality, right? And they ended up winning, right? The Sun ended up winning their case in the UK. The court case in the US, Amber Heard ended up losing. I honestly, I think that obviously, like, every relationship is complicated, and there's going to, it's way more complicated, and we can't really know the ins and outs of the relationship. But I'm gonna probably disagree with that super chat. Yeah. So
Any other
yeah.
comments on this?
Again, I barely follow the Diddy trial, so there are bits of true crime that I follow
Sure.
and parts that I don't, and I didn't follow it all. I'm also in Germany, so it doesn't really come across my feed as much as in the States, so I'm gonna plead ignorance on the whole Heard thing. So,
Fair
yeah.
enough. The old "I didn't hear about that" defense. I got it. I see what you're saying.
It's
Okay.
not in my algorithm defense, yeah.
What about you, Ash or Marlo? Anything?
I also have never followed. I never
Noted.
followed that case. I'm so sorry.
You know what? I actually think more of
I
the
think
people
it's
who haven't
interesting that
followed it
the
than the ones who do, honestly. But
sort of how I predicted in the beginning of the debate, we're going back to a degree of separation where it's versus the Sun, a defamation case versus this other publication, which probably has some additional precedent protecting it, probably has some additional rights as the press, even if they
UK
make their
libel
primary
laws are
defense.
much weaker
It's
than
actually
the
much.
States, by the way. Yeah.
Isn't it much harder to? I heard that it's harder to what's it called?
to be
To
clear, I don't want
win,
this to
Oh,
turn
right?
into.
regardless,
Yeah.
I don't want to turn
who
it
was it
into
against
a
in the
First Amendment
States?
debate on UK
Yes.
versus the
It's not a
US.
First
We can
It
have
Amendment
was
that another
debate. It's
against
day.
not a First Amendment debate. I don't
it
know
was
why you're cutting
against
me
it
off
was
with
ag-
that.
it was against the publication. I don't remember which publication that Amber Heard wrote her op-ed in, but it was against her and that publication, I believe, because she
In the UK
um
or the US?
I think it was in the US. I could be wrong on that though, but I do know it was a defamation lawsuit related to the op-ed that she wrote. And she was, obviously sued for that, right? So I mean, I would say that obviously, again, relationships are way more complicated, but there were things that pieces of evidence that were admitted into the UK court that were not admitted into the US court. So,
Right.
like therapist notes documenting her abuse, etc., right? So, yeah.
Okay. $20 from Audacity. Thank you for the $20, sir. Should men be educated on the societal skew of accountability, men versus women, and elect to be more defensive regarding their experience with women? See cells or voluntary celibates, while maintaining their social and emotional development.
So if I'm understanding that question correctly, this person is asking if we advocate that men be more retracted from society until they're developed. Is that what the question is?
Women are to be more defensive, and as I understand it, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I understand it is like, hey, we're gonna like men should like seek their own way for at least a little bit, get themselves in order before, uh, trying to go out and get women and things like that. But I don't know. I could be wrong. Could be a misinterpretation.
I mean, I'm all for MGTOW, I guess. Y'all
Should men
go
be
your own way.
instructed with the idea that accountability is not equal between the genders, is what's described as? I
I
believe
think
that's
we
what
are all that's
Audacity
a
said.
Rorschach
Audacity is
the
saying I
question is
got
a
it in
Rorschach
one.
test.
He's saying nail on the head. You know me so well, so he agrees with my interpretation.
Okay, can
There
you
you go.
restate that? Because for
Yeah,
me,
I'm a
that
bit
question was a
confused.
Rorschach test.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Let me see if I can interpret again. But basically, he's saying that men, because of the disparity, right, that is out there between men and women, especially early on, that men should be defensive when in their interactions with women, interact less, right, and try to just concentrate on themselves until they get the emotional maturity, the development, the societal stuff that they're able to engage on a equal footing.
I think
All right.
wouldn't it be better if like we just had a broader cultural understanding of like friendship, not necessarily having to
Mhm.
I just think that like the hypersexualization of American culture is kind of contributing to this. And it's like we
What do you
have a
mean by the? What do you mean by that? The hypersexualization of
I
American
think that
culture.
Americans are obsessed with their own satiation. I think that Americans are obsessed with getting pleasure in any capacity they possibly can. I think that
Like
is
liking
another
this
panel
channel, subscribing to the sub, and donating money. Okay, but carry on.
based. Um, and so and like that's a whole other panel, obviously. But I think that like when you approach human interactions that through a sexualized lens, it does lend itself to like a resource extraction or like a pleasure extraction. And I would probably I'd go out on a limb and I would say that probably all three of my other panelists here agree that women do this, but not to the degree that men do this, and
On the
that
on the hypersexuality point though, and I want to ask you a question that relates back to the main topic, and we can maybe bring this back on topic a little bit, right? I know we're going everywhere. And I see the $50. We'll get there in a second. Don't worry. I'll get my 50 money. I'll get the money. Okay. Um, I would say that women, at least in the realm of sexuality, are held far more accountable than men. Look at how body counts are viewed. Look at how women's sexual proclivities are viewed and shamed and judged in a way that men's simply are not. So when we talk about women needing to be more accountable, it seems to me that at least in the sexual realm, they're held plenty accountable. In fact, too much, I would argue. What would be your response?
Before I answer that, oh, sorry, you finish, and then I wanted to go back to the older question before we started the new
Uh,
one. But
If you want to do the older question, I can remember it and ask her again. So while it's fresh on your
okay,
mind,
okay.
go ahead.
Well, Marlo, you hold that.
Same here.
So my thing is, your mom's a woman, your sisters are girls and women, your cousins. You have people like I think that would be really helpful is if guys friend zoned more of people of the opposite sex, because I think there's a bit of um, uh, women are alien kind of I think it's also in the MGTOW kind of world that women are these alien creatures we can't understand, and just like we're not. We just like just listen. The other thing is just like listen and try to understand and have empathy. Like I talked about conflict resolution, try to do some perspective taking. I know a whole bunch of guys during the Me Too thing when women started coming out and talking about, yeah, I've been groped, I've had kisses forced on me, all the way up to SA. We're shocked because they didn't know. So many of their female friends or or family members had that happen to them because they don't talk about that kind of stuff. So I think that rather than restraining or restricting, like just friend zone a bunch of girls and like learn about how they exist as people and that they're different and everyone is unique. So now we can get on to
No, I want to.
sexual.
I'm
Oh,
going to
okay.
jump in here because I've been
Okay, go
waiting for
ahead,
my
Ash, please.
gauges on this, and I think that this ties back and probably the three previous questions that we had. I hate to do it. Who set that system up? Why aren't men rushing who have been raised by women for something like 2 to 3 generations now? The vast majority of elementary teachers, vast majority of teachers in general that they encounter, the rates of single motherhood are primarily men are raised in female dominated environments. Why aren't they rushing to go interact with women? I personally do. I've had plenty of female friends. I run games online, for instance. Most of my players for D&D and Pathfinder, most of them are women. I interact with a lot of women online. They're generally pleasant. However, I'm not sure that the alien to friendliness distinction, and maybe this is where some of the topic comes from, has. I'm not sure that that closes once you encounter them and you make friends with them. There's a lot of behavior that I kind of look at and really just cringe at. Like, why? First of all, why are you telling me this? You couldn't waterboard this out of me. And why do you think this is acceptable to begin with? I think it is a pretty natural, even somebody who goes that extra step and says, okay, I'm not going to take the behavior of my mother, my sisters, my female teachers, principals, whatever have you, as indicative of the wider population. I'm not going to judge or be that judgmental. Go in with an open mind. Why is it that they don't necessarily change their opinions writ large? And I'm going to add a second point here, going back
And
to
can
the
you give us an
feminization of
example on that, just
education.
so I understand what you mean?
Yeah, I'm a bit confused.
Like, give us a
Example.
concrete
So
example, just so we can bite
I
into it.
went through like 3 different points. Which one?
The last one you did about not taking the actions of your sisters, female teachers, right, writ large, and yeah, give us an example.
The actions of, sorry, like the negative social actions of parents or whatever.
Sure. Give us an example for each
Oh,
one.
here's
How's that?
a great personal
Give us an
example.
example, please.
I had a fairly abusive household that I moved across to Texas to escape from. My mother frequently would accuse me of one, physical violence, two, threats, screaming, and stuff like that. And sometimes she would be in an argument and I would be yelling, but she would begin recording the argument at the moment at which I was yelling. And I stopped this after I found her and my sister listening. She was a bit snippy that particular morning. This is like a core memory for me. Bit snippy that particular morning. I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'm just trying to make some breakfast. Why is she doing this? I walk up the stairs and I see the two of them down the other side of the stairs in the foyer. It's like a split thing. It doesn't matter. Talking and saying, okay, I'm going to go back in there. I want you to have the phone ready on this other side over here. And it was like a core memory for me. I'm like, wait, what the fuck? They're literally planning an argument for me. And I recorded it. And I began recording and sending things to my male friends and to the churches in the personal example I gave earlier, where deacons had come to my house and said, look, the way that you're treating your family is unacceptable. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Just to get some sanity checks, I addressed it with personal friends of mine who agreed with my perspective and said it was insane and offered to help get me out of the home. When I brought it to the church, it was not accepted because I did have a more feminine bias. The focus was on, look, even if you're correct, we're not accepting any risk of physical violence or any risk of aggression towards your family, which frankly I still agree with, right? Like I understand their perspective and agree with it writ large. I just think it sucks that it affected me personally. I wouldn't even argue against that standard because I hold the principle of accountability that high. Don't see anything comparable on the other side. I have a second point, but I want to give people an opportunity to respond.
Yeah, respond to that before we get there. And I do have a couple more super chats, but go ahead. Any response to this?
I guess I would say that, that sucks. I'm sorry that happened to you. I guess my question would be is you're asking, so this was them, I guess this was like with your church, right? Or the deacon, I think you said, intervening and trying to intervene and say that or I guess trying to hold you accountable for what kind of behavior? Like what were they accusing
Accusations
you?
of physical violence and of aggression.
Okay,
There
and
was
then
no physical violence, to be
So as
clear.
I
yeah,
understand your
And then
story,
the
they were trying
yelling.
to set you up, basically.
Yep.
I guess what
Yeah.
I'm getting from this is okay. So the deacon was trying to I guess was trying to hold you accountable for physical violence that wasn't occurring, right? And I guess my question would
Correct.
be what is it that you're saying isn't being held accountable on the opposite side, like what your mom and sister were doing, I guess, like making things up, I guess is what you're saying, that people should hold them
I'm
accountable.
trying to, sure, like in general, but I'm appealing to like a general social structure of like, okay, when you're misbehaving, if you're being physically or financially or emotionally abusive, right? Every time somebody has a conversation about your behavior, you start crying, or you're spending too much money, or you are literally physically hitting your partner.
Yeah.
I don't have that same kind of structure set up, for instance, within the church.
If I could,
Please.
y- I am so sorry because just going off of what you said, and it's only one anecdote, but it sounds like you had a very abusive childhood. And this kind of gets to my point about how we can't rely on innate biological that, women are going to have X, Y, and Z, because I've seen enough stories of bad mothers and abusive mothers and women who honestly, like, they should have had their kids taken away from them. And it sounds like, I mean, I don't want to say destroy your family, but you would have been better out that house. And I don't know if she was diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder or antisocial behavior, but that was so wrong. And I'm so, so sorry that that happened to you. And the church should have come in to protect the vulnerable, not to uphold the 10 commandments in that situation. And this is why victims need to be believed. because of, we always have to believe. You start with belief and then you go from that point. And if they're lying, it'll come out, right? But you always start from, and so, that would,
Regretfully,
I
that was
don't.
their perspective. It was just, I guess, first
Mhm.
anchor bias, you could say,
Yeah,
except it
so as
wasn't
I
a price
understand it, hold on, as I
negotiation.
understand it, just to kind of interject here, they were taking that concept of believe the accuser, and they believe the victim, and they were believing the women who were saying that Ash was victimizing them.
I mean, I don't know what was in their minds. I also know Honor Thy Mother and Father
Sure.
has covered up a lot of abusive behavior and spare the rod and spoil the child and all that kind of stuff. I just want to say
That's
that
fair.
from your, like, what happened to you was really wrong, and it breaks my heart that you had to pull yourself up from that situation. And I understand why there would be suspicion and resentment there of those kinds of familiar relationships, because that's not what a family should be ever.
Okay.
I appreciate
Um,
that. I escaped. I've been in like a committed
Yeah,
monogamous relationship for 4 years, so like we're good now.
yeah.
But I have suspicion on that account because of one other thing that you said with regards to education, and this to me was key. Anger, hate, and fear are not tolerated emotions from young men. They are punished, they are suppressed because anger is a social emotion. It indicates some problem with another person that must be resolved, and it's repressed in young men. If you are angry, if you are upset and yelling, this is not, men are not afraid of sharing this with their fellow men. They're afraid of sharing it with their teachers. They're afraid of sharing it with their mothers, fathers too, as well. That's not exclusive. I did have a father. He just died when I was a teenager. So I got to see the split a little bit in parenting styles. After you account for what trauma, like
Mhm.
death and trauma, does to a family. Obviously, I'm not going to be as harsh as I could be on that front. But anger, I think, is regarded as a social negative, is regarded as antisocial, is regarded as not indirect aggression. It's regarded as a so bad it is a precursor to violence, is how desperately it's stamped out in the States. But anger is the signal something is wrong, somebody is being mistreated, or a perception is so wildly off base that this person can't engage socially at all. And the repression of that emotion, which we know to be a social tool, is, I think, repression of men's social ability, their social intelligence, you would say. I'm just making an affirmative claim there.
you're fine.
So if I guess what I would say is that it seems like in your situation that does ring true, and I'm sorry that your anger was suppressed. I do think on a broader sense, what I've seen from my observations is that that it is, and this is not speaking on your situation. Obviously, this is different, right? I
Yeah,
think
no,
in your
no. I gave
yeah,
an anecdote to be clear, right?
yeah, yeah,
We could just like
yeah.
reject that out. I only gave it because I was asked.
Yeah, no,
Mhm.
no, no. Obviously think in your situation it was very different, and nobody should be asked to suppress their emotions in an unhealthy way, right? I do think on a broader scale, we find that men are it's an acceptable emotion from men to be angry, but it's what they do with that anger that it determines whether you see it as a precursor to violence, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I think also you'll see whereas like anger is not really seen as a acceptable emotion from women. And again, this might just be my observation, but that's generally the impression that I've gotten from like how we portray people in media and things like that, who express these emotions, right? Whereas like crying is a different thing, right? Crying is seen as like more acceptable from women, though I'll say in like the online space, people immediately jump to this person is using their tears to manipulate people. But whereas like crying and being sad is not as acceptable, it seems for men. But again, these might be like dated thoughts and dated observations that I've seen, so yeah.
I think
Okay.
this is pretty dated. I think if you were to survey, and I don't have data on this, so this is difficult, and maybe Christy has some contrary data. So we'll
Well,
I'm
finish
waiting
your
with bated
thought.
breath. So I think
Finish your thought,
if
and
you
then
if you were to survey people growing up in the States in particular, under, largely single mothers, under largely female teachers, which one is encouraged? Crying or making an accusation of bad faith or expressing discontent with another person in an angry way? Doesn't even have to be yelling, could just be like some sharpness, some indication that you find them subpar, which would be encouraged. I really highly doubt, and I'm loading heavily on personal experience here and intuition pumping it, but I don't know how else to approach this. I really highly doubt that anger is encouraged in this way. None of my friends have regarded this. None of my
I
not even
wouldn't say
my
encouraged. I think
older friends.
I would say acceptable, right? Like it's an acceptable emotion to have, right?
It
No,
also
like
depends on the age group.
yeah.
As
So
boys age
Mhm.
out into their teens, it becomes less acceptable to cry and more acceptable to, like, punch a wall or slam your locker or, demonstrate emotion in that way in your peer group. Right? So there's like what society, because I think teenage, because also, this is like, it's very different from grown-up men. I think grown-up men have, an opportunity to live life and get more experience. So it's difficult here when we're kind of like talking about kids who, and then kids as adolescents, and then
Mhm.
adults, because the teen years we know is when people start breaking away from their families, establishing their own independence, their social group status becomes much more important. Those relationships are, get away from me, mom, don't hug me. I'm going to go hang with my friends. I don't, that kind of stuff. And eventually, we age out of that as well. So I think it depends on the cohort. Younger is probably more on the other side, but you don't see a lot of it, yeah. Like I think we all, when we see like a men's college basketball game, and like, yeah, if you see the players who lose at the end, your heart just really, really breaks. If you see them, you see them so trying to control their emotions and not cry on on the court if they've lost or whatever. But anyway, I'm just rambling now, so
you're
I'll stop.
fine. I do have well, no, Marlo, please, if you have something to say. Otherwise, I have another
Hit
super
that
chat for
super
you.
chat, Wick.
Okay. I love it.
The bag.
So $5 from give me a second. Cow math 77 to say y'all should spend a little time on the physical expectations of men in broader society, considering how important that is to every man's psyche. We'll get to that. Then $50 from Adam Refriended to say this. Returning to the main topic, does any panel member believe that classical liberalism might have been more effective in holding women accountable? It seems that feminism, viewed as a form of gender Marxism, has not adequately addressed this issue. Go ahead. You had opinions, Christy? Like you were laughing, so
I think
give it a
that this
Yeah.
is
go.
Christie's domain, so yeah, I'll cede my time to her. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, don't even, well, first, like, the idea that, like, feminism is somehow an outgrowth of the taking the ownership of the means of production. I guess it's the means of reproduction and getting it some respect on its name. But um, I don't even know what is meant by the way that classical liberalism controlled or held women to account. I mean, I think I, I, I don't know a time period we're talking
Look,
about.
all I know Look,
Yeah, I
all I
know is
know
what
is
you
that
read,
before
right?
women got the vote, there were 0 cities destroyed by nuclear fire, and after they got the
Exactly.
vote, there was at least 2, okay? That's all I know, but go ahead, please.
Is, Marlo got her hand up or their hand up?
I I do so I think I might be able to speak to this. I think it's possible that this super chatter is addressing um the idea of like a complete totality, a an extremely polarizing approach to gender ethics and like thinking about the difference between the biological sexes, and like and I'm hearing that in the distinction between like Marxism and classical liberalism, right, where like I think it's possible that feminism did get kind of socially associated with much more far left um and like hyper progressive politics than it
Well,
necessarily needed
just to
to.
interject in there and to kind of back that kind of thinking up, we do see, especially now, a huge gap forming in young people's politics where men seem to be going right and women are going far, far left. At least that's what the data suggests.
Just to
Go
jump
ahead.
in, men aren't even going right. They're just staying the same. Women
Okay.
are going like nearly a factor
Yeah,
of
yeah.
10
Go ahead,
I
upwards.
Marlo.
believe it
Finish.
is
I didn't mean to
both.
interrupt
I
I didn't
believe
mean
it
to
is
interrupt. I just wanted
a
to interrupt
Yeah.
with data.
polarization, and I'm sure Chrissy can back me up on that. Like
Mhm.
we are actively spreading away from one another on a
Oh, we are,
gender
but it's
bias.
men going 3% to the right and it's women going 20% to the left.
But
Do
you have
you
to
really
remember that
think that MAGA is 3% more to the right than like George W. Bush? Is that where we're about to go?
MAGA has women in it.
Does it? Those people aren't even people, so I don't care.
Okay, that's totally fine.
That's yeah. That there's nobody that votes for MAGA because if you vote for MAGA, you're not people. That's my stance on that. But I do
But
agree
you can't
with
count them.
the $50 super chatter that
yeah.
it would be better for like quote classical liberalism to be like those principles of like constantly reevaluating your stance, of like making sure that you're readopting new like new stances as things progress and change, right? I can imagine a world in which like third wave feminism is actually standing here talking about, hey, like women are more socially emotionally advantaged, maybe they should have a social cultural movement to hold each other more accountable. I think I would consider myself a classical liberal, but the idea that there is some form of oppression that needs to be removed in every single aspect of society, I would call is what I would assume this person is pointing to with that like association with like Marxism, right? Where it's like there has to be this like revolution, this throwing off, this removal of paternalistic yada yada yada. But I think this person like, do you think that's what they're talking about, Wick?
Perhaps I think that they're speaking more in the kind of like right wing language here, and that feminism is cultural Marxism, it's communal, and it's like suicidal empathy type deal, right?
Oh,
I
am I
Women
don't
missing
think it
that?
I'm going to
is.
jump
rage
in.
I
type
I
don't
of
think
think
it
they're
thing.
is.
making an economic argument. I really do think, I think it's a reference to Marxism in this regard, is that modern feminism is redistributive. It's about taking wealth and opportunities from, or has the coincidental effect of taking wealth and opportunities now from younger men. To refer earlier
Isn't
Boo.
it
to
the
the
case?
education
Wait.
gap
Uh,
question, I'll finish right after this.
Okay.
With regards to the education gap question earlier, yes, it's true that college is more necessary for better economic outcomes nowadays. However, the outcomes for specifically Gen Z men going to college, their job prospects in particular, are closing between those who are not college educated and those who are college educated. And it's not because the uneducated men are going up, because the college educated men are going down in terms of their prospects. It is more difficult. I mean, shoot, I put biracial and bisexual in all of my job applications, and it's another anecdote, but mysteriously, it knocks about 6 months off the search.
How often do you look
I'm
for
not
work?
lying on those, of course.
um, so I think that what feminism has done has one is it's kind of held up American claims about all people being well, it says all men being created equal, but we've kind of changed that to all people, and asked us to be more of that meritocracy that we keep saying we are, and that means competition. But also, I think importantly, it's forced societies to recognize the economic value of women's unpaid labor, predominantly women's unpaid labor, whether that's through caring or child rearing. And now with all these crises about the population falling, population rates falling, there's a big question about like why aren't women having more babies? Well, the question is, why aren't men being more fathers? But also like because of the economic cost. If you come down to it, it's because it's very very expensive to have children, and women are like really deciding if they want to make it, and there's a lot of reasons that go into it. But I think that if you want to look at it from an economic standpoint, one of the things that it wasn't Marx, it was Engel, his book on marriage and the family, and the fact that all of capitalism at the time, and still continues to this day in some extent, was built on women's unpaid labor, which then either freed up working men to go to the factories to make profits for the capitalist owners, or it freed up taking care of the home freed up the capitalists to go exploit the working men. So just as a point of when we're talking about economics, it's not just paid labor we need to be talking about in that calculation. It's also the unpaid labor that we do.
Okay. Speaking of labor and unpaid labor and all that, right? You did mention that you have an out soon, and I don't want to
2 a.m. Yeah,
hold
I
your
get a
hostage.
whole 5.5 hours of sleep now.
Yeah.
What was your $5 super chat though? They
Oh,
asked a question that I wanted
yes.
to
Well,
respond to.
they made a request actually. They requested that we should spend a little time on the physical expectations of men in broader society, considering how important that is to every man's psyche.
Yes, and I think again, there's a rumor, there's this like myth out there that maybe some women do like this, that men have to have a certain kind of body. But again, I think this is more of a male culture policing with bodybuilding, and there's a big problem with body dysmorphia in with younger men and men who are in that sphere. But honestly, like most of the women I knew, and maybe it's because I'm a nerd, but I'm into like geeky looking, scrawny, nerdy guys. Always have been, and that's just my thing. So it's that stereotype that you have to be 6 foot tall and make six figures and have a six
Yeah.
pack is sold by people who make money
But
oftentimes by
hold
men
on,
who yeah.
hold
Like
on.
Andrew
You
Tate, right?
understand that someone who
Mhm.
is that, a man who is 6 foot, six figures, six pack, is going to have a remarkably different life on a interpersonal relationship level with women than a
Because of the
guy who's
attractiveness
5 foot.
biases. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
but I mean
there's an
that would be the
attractiveness
same for
bias.
women. That would be the same for
Mhm.
women who are making six figures,
Cameron
six pack,
Diaz.
and yeah,
Yeah. Look, Cameron Diaz is gonna get a lot more dates than I am.
yeah.
So I think it does work both ways. And with that, I will leave you guys. I wanted to say thank you to each of the panelists and to our host for I've had really bad online discussions where it was basically like me versus three people. And also I wanted to say to Stardust, I came on
Oh,
because I meant to be on with a debate with you for ages. So this is why I stayed up till 2 in the morning.
I'm so
But
excited.
honestly,
I'm so
Marlo,
happy. You're like a legend to me, so I'm like, I'm very happy to have gotten this
I noticed how
opportunity
she
to
didn't
pair
say
with
whether
you.
this was one of the bad experiences, but go on,
no, it
please.
wasn't. Wick, you're a great host. I would come on your
Thank
show
you.
again. I would stay up till 1 in the morning again for you because I had such a good time. Marlo, you've become one of my favorite people. Message me, like hook me, like message me on Discord, and we'll connect. And Nelson, thank you so much for your participation and your honesty. And I feel like you didn't get too many words in. I felt like you were kind of the minority in the group today, but I appreciate your presence and your thoughts and your participation too.
Okay, where can
Or
people
white
find you
man.
if they
No, I
want to
really
find you?
appreciate
Just
you
real
jumping
quick,
on.
just real quick, where can people find you if they want to find you?
I'm on Blue Sky because I got booted off of Twitter when I wrote Elon Musk is an ass, not parody, and he booted he booted me for impersonation.
Oh my
So you're gonna
gosh.
have to. Yeah, I have the original tweet. Took a screenshot of it.
Send it to me. I'm
So
curious, but no,
oh yeah,
gang, I have a link to her YouTube,
yeah.
in
I do
my
YouTube shit.
yes, my description. All you have to do is go to the YouTube description, click on that link, and you can subscribe to their channel. It's great.
Yeah.
Check it out. Any final words?
Um. y- Um. I've been Christy. You've all been awesome. Have a great night, morning, evening, wherever it is you are in the world.
Have a good evening.
Bye.
Jen. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. For the rest of us, okay, I'm going to give
Very
you guys
pleasant.
closing statements, and you can either stay as I take callers, or you can go away. That's up to you. I'm going to give the mic first to Stardust, and then we're going to give it to Nelson, and then we're going to have Marlo have the last word. Go ahead,
Um,
Stardust.
yeah, so I guess I'll echo what Christy said. It's been a great conversation. I think I came into this expecting it to be, way more, fighty. And then it wasn't. So it's a nice, pleasant, what would I say? Not contradiction. What's the word for it? I'm not having a great vocabulary day today.
Oxymoron? Paradox?
Expectation. You had a
Paradox.
pleasant
Subversion of
Paradox.
expectation.
Yes. So yeah, it was very nice. I appreciate that. I guess what I would say is that, I think feminism has, despite the demonization of it, right? And even when Christy was talking about like the Marxian kind of view, right? Just because you're a feminist doesn't mean that you yourself are a Marxist, right? I'm very strongly a capitalist. I'm very strongly like, probably fall into like the neoliberal or like moderate liberal camp, right? Uh, I guess what I would say is like that analysis of women's unpaid labor, obviously that has been analyzed through that Marxian lens, or that, not even Marx, right? She was saying Engels, right? But it doesn't mean that you yourself are not a capitalist, or that you're not whatever you are, right? You just acknowledge that there is a lot of unpaid labor and uh, unpaid work that women do, right? Even if we look at like the caretaking of ill, family members or elderly family members, right? That is something that far more often women are doing than men are doing. And it is probably, caretaking is probably one of the most stressful jobs that a person can have. And this is also what women, not only do they do that, they also sacrifice their own career, advancement, because they are more likely to do that, right? I think that that's like an important thing that I would want to touch on. And then secondly, the holding people accountable for indirect aggression. I can see where Marlo is coming from with it. I guess my only my only problem with that is that I do see women held accountable for indirect aggression in ways that we don't really expect, right? Nobody is looking at like incarcerated women and the rates that they are being punished for indirect aggression, disobedience, disrespect, in comparison to incarcerated men, right? Incarcerated men aren't being held accountable in nearly the same amount, right? So yes, if we're just looking internally, women holding women accountable, sure, I can always agree with you that women should always strive for more and hold more women accountable. But I also don't want to give a pass to men just because they haven't achieved the same amount of emotional intelligence as us. I think that they are equally as capable. I think they're not like developmentally disabled children. They are just like uneducated, I guess, but they have the full capability as much as women are to achieve that, and they should hold themselves accountable and hold each other accountable. And just like with locker room talk, right? I mean, that I would say is pretty crazy indirect aggression, right? But we don't see it. So anyways, that's my summary. So sorry, I didn't mean to go on for too long, but I did. So.
Where can people find you?
I'm Stardust. YouTube.com/Stardust IRL for my live streams. YouTube.com/Stardust officially for my video essays. And you can find me making people very angry and getting brigaded by neo-Nazis like at least once a week on Twitter. Tweets from Star. So yeah, those are the places I am. So thank you.
Okay, thank you for being here. Really appreciate you. Check her out, gang. Give her a follow on her subscribers and or subscribe on her YouTube channels. I've linked them both in my YouTube description. Please do that. Nelson/Ash/James/Gelatinous Rube. Go ahead.
Yeah, it was a delightful discussion. I really appreciated Christy coming on. I put away my Dick Masterson copy persona for this particular panel because I knew that we had a PhD coming on, so I hope that didn't ruin anybody's time. I'm bringing it back for the call-in show. I'm sure there's been a lot of talking shit in chat. You know where to go backstage, and then we're going to feed Wick more super chats. I found out I don't have work tonight because of the freeze, so this is my job. I'm going to be getting Wick more money. So jump in. If I had control of education, control of child rearing, and control of most social influence and most social policy, I would not retreat to the idea that other people are doing worse. I would simply say, I can always do better. And that might go into unattainables, it might go into policing, but policing itself, of course, is an outgrowth of accountability. It's holding yourself to too high of a standard because you are striving to get better. This can turn antisocial at the extreme ends, but my God, it really seems to make up the majority of our social institutions that we do appreciate. So I'm just going to encourage people to say, what can I do better without necessarily jumping to who can I compare myself to for an excuse?
Okay, and where can people find you?
You can find me at Gelatinous Rube on YouTube, and you can find me on Twitter as well. There's nothing of value there. I am on Blue Sky now. Maybe we'll see if anything comes out there. I'm going to return to video essays in February.
Okay, looking forward to it. I've seen a couple. His RPG ones are pretty stellar. You should check him out. Go give him a follow. Go give him a subscribe. All that good stuff.
Thank you.
Again, once again, if you were looking for any of these people, their YouTube descriptions or the whatever they sent me to link has been linked. Okay, and you can find them there. Last but certainly not least, Miss MAGA aren't people herself, Marlo. Give us your closing thoughts.
This was super fun. I guess my closing thoughts are mostly centered around the way that that the comparisons did come in. And I guess I invited those comparisons because there's only two sexes. Well, that's also contentious, but when we talk about accountability, I think that accountability is a net good thing, right? It is difficult to have things like accountability in excess. When people are being held accountable, that is something that makes our world safer, our society more social, people happier, more free, all that stuff. And I think that it would be a mistake for anyone to say, well, I don't think I should be held accountable, or more accountability wouldn't be helpful, because once it gets to that maximal degree where it isn't helpful, right, then it's something else almost always. And I think that what I'd love to see is women fix this fucking country. I'm begging you, bitches. Call me, follow me on Twitter. We could fix this shit. I'm so serious, okay? We have the tools. We have the understanding of that communal aspect of femininity. We have the social and emotional intelligence to talk these fools down out of their foolish opinions. And I think that we will be better at that if we are better ourselves. I'll stay and take calls with you, Wick, but you have to let me go take a pee break.
No, you can't. Of course, you go.
Fine,
Go
I
pee
quit.
if you need to pee. Where can people find you?
I made a Twitter account yesterday. I'm working on a couple of video essays right now, but I work slowly on things because I get distracted by being on panels and stuff.
Being
But
on
I'll post
panels.
them
Hold on.
eventually.
You've been on one panel. How are
This
you
is my
being
first
distracted
panel.
for being on panels and stuff?
I am also on routinely. I'm the backup guy on some of my friends' podcasts. Check them out at the Gotham and Gilmore Show. I'm basically their third host. That's the Discord link where you can come and find me to come and argue with me if that's what you want to do. And I am also recently getting into some of the MAGA influencer YouTube channels in my community. So I will not be linking any of those because that would dox my ass. So
Okay.
I have plenty of appearances lined up. I just haven't been on a panel, brother.
Okay.
Give
Well,
me a second.
thank you for being
I
here.
do agree with you, by the way, on women can fix shit, so we should fix shit. Yeah.
Okay, in before the next the nuclear war that destroys us all when women get in charge. But okay, if you want to call in, you guys can all welcome to stay for this, right? I have thoughts and we're gonna get to them. But before I do, I pinned it in the YouTube chat, and you can play !point Discord in the Twitch chat. But you click so you click on the link I've given you. Okay. You accept the rules by going to the rules page and finding my little face emoji, okay? And then you click on that, and that'll accept the rules. And then what happens is you jump backstage, which is at the very top of the YouTube, and then we bring you on, and then you can ask your questions, and you can hold these panelists accountable, or perhaps me accountable, if you'd like. And yeah, so by all means, I guess before we get our first caller in here, did you guys like it? Did you have fun? Was it what you expected?
I had fun. It was definitely not what I expected. I was expecting way more heat. Usually I'm ready to bring the heat too, But yeah, so I don't know. I had fun though.
I'll say this. I was pleasantly surprised because I was like, "Oh, okay, this is gonna be a." Well, I have mixed feelings. I'll be honest. I have mixed feelings on this. Okay, so part of me, this is full for now. Full for now. Okay, part of me is like, wow, that was a really interesting discussion. We got into some depth. We got into some real issues and things like that. So part of me was very pleasantly surprised with that. Very good, A plus. The other part of me is like, yo, where's the rage? Where is the content? Where is making my audience angry enough to give me money? I didn't
This
see
is why
that.
streamers are evil. Okay,
I mean,
sorry.
I can do that
And
for you if you want, but
no,
it's
no, we're
not going to
good.
be
We're good. I'm just
pleasant.
saying that
That's what the after
I was like,
party's for.
wow, I thought they were
That's
gonna get
true.
some
I
blood and
got
guts
you.
here. We're gonna get into a lot of things, but that's what the open
What's
panel's
up,
for,
everyone?
and that's what we're gonna do here. So we got some open panelists here who've decided to come on and hold us accountable, whether it be men or women. I'm not sure, or perhaps just me. I want to say hi. If you have cameras, turn them on. I understand you don't have to, but it really does help the algorithm and help all that. Kung Fu Joe, you were first, so what are your thoughts here? Go ahead, sir.
Yes, hello, Wick. Sorry I don't have a camera right now. I'm kind of watching the kids at the moment. I'm being accountable. Anyway, yeah, this was kind of my main line of attack when I had my debate with Owlish. It was that women lack accountability, therefore they shouldn't be put into positions of power. So I would like to ask either of the ladies here, are any of you going to take accountability for Star Wars getting absolutely fucking wrecked?
Oh wow, did women do that?
Oh, fuck
Because
yeah, they
that's
did.
terrible.
I don't.
Which
Yeah, I don't know
women?
anything about that. So
Because I agree that it's dog shit now.
I never
Yeah,
liked
why
Star
is
Wars in
that?
the first place. So I don't like. I'm
Well,
sorry,
that's
I never liked Star
Hey,
Wars in the first
Star
place.
Trek.
So it
Star Trek
always
lover,
fucking
let's
sucked
go.
for me. So dog shit series, if you ask me. Fuck Star Wars. So I mean, that's my
No,
hot
it's
take.
objectively worse now. It's
Is it objectively worse?
now.
It was
There's been
always dog shit. If
Okay,
we're
no, hold on,
comparing
hold
two
on, hold on,
big
hold on.
pieces of
Just
shit,
real quick.
do
We
I
will
really
have some order
care?
in this court.
This is
Just real
Pope.
quick. We'll have some order in this court. Marlo did ask a question to you, Kung Fu Joe. I'd like an answer. Which women ruined it?
Yeah, seriously.
Well, I would say the heads, like Kathleen Kennedy had to throw her voice in there and throw her
She
footnotes
got
in
fired.
there.
She just got fired.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
why are you
but she already did
complaining?
the fucking damage. She did. Why did she get fired? Because she did damage. Okay, did she take
I mean, look,
accountability
we
and
have to
say
deal with your
I fucked up
dumb
Star Wars?
ass because your family fucked you up when you were a kid, obviously.
Well,
So
who the
yeah,
fuck
we
are
have to deal
you?
with it.
Who
We get
I'm
it.
sorry. This is literally
All right,
like
you giving off
comparing
single
two
mom
pieces of
energy here.
turd to me. Oh, which one's better? I don't care. They're both pieces of shit. I don't really care.
I mean,
So
give me a sec. Because here,
All
look,
right. Let's fuck up.
I'm
Let's talk
definitely
about something
need.
else you guys fucked up. How
Hold on,
about
let Marlo respond. Then you can ask your second question. Then we'll get to the rest of the
yeah,
panel.
hold
Go
yourself
ahead.
accountable, man.
So look, listen. I'm gonna need some proof that that it was Kathleen Kennedy's fucking fault, and if it is, then fuck her. I can't stand the new series. I think. Well, actually, I have one question though. Did Kathleen Kennedy have anything to do with Andor's creation? Because Andor is better than all other iterations of any fucking Star Wars franchise installations combined. So
Yeah, that's a low bar.
everything else, but she created Andor, then it's in net balance. So
But you got to remember, Kung Fu Joe doesn't watch
Andor
things
is
that are
boneless
that any
sandbaggers.
sort of
Okay, it is a
critical
pale shadow, a
anything.
pale
So
imitation of
he doesn't
much
know
better
it.
shows that came before it. It has all
The
the style and
I'm sorry,
aesthetics
the
of
only
substance, but
good
has no
part of
substance
Star
behind
Wars
it.
was Jar Jar Binks. That is the only good part of Star Wars. The
Excellent.
rest of it is
So here's an
absolute
example of
fucking
male
shit.
accountability, where I go in on Kung Fu Joe for bringing a stupid gay nerd problem as opposed to something
True.
like voting.
fact.
Yeah, no, I got a real problem. That was just like more of a nice
Well,
little
I got
jokey
$20 from Adam
I was merely
Refriended. Hold on, just real
pretending.
quick. I got $20 from Adam Refriended to say my super chat encapsulated a synthesis of the perspectives offered by Ash, Wick, and Marlowe. It is inherently multifaceted, addressing a wide range of issues and the subtleties of contemporary global events. And that's what Adam Refriended. That's what we expect from $50 super chats.
But I need
Kudos to
more
you.
explanation from Adam Refriended, because that was probably the most nothing burger statement I've ever heard. So can you send another super chat, please, and explain further, because I'm very confused.
Okay.
She's a
Kung
woman,
Fu Joe, you had
remember.
a second
So
question. I want to get through it quick.
Yeah,
so we can get to the
let's
rest.
get to something a
Before
little
you
more.
before you move away from the Star Wars thing,
Go
can
for
I
it.
ask you ladies a question? Like why are you angry that these guys want to see obviously more men
I'm not
TV.
angry. I don't
Like,
care.
yeah, I think let them be mad if they're just, repressed in some ways and they're just looking to see more men. That's clearly
I think
what's
that's the
going on.
point.
So
I
Yeah,
think
I
that's
don't
a
think I'm mad. I'm not
misstatement
mad at
of
all. I
Cujo's
think
claim.
it's all dog shit. The only good character was literally Jar Jar Binks. I fell asleep through every Star Wars movie. The only thing I was awake for was Jar Jar Binks. And you guys need to get better fucking media because you guys fucking suck. Okay, like literally get on some shit. Get
I
good.
do have to agree with Stardust about the fact that the men are drinking slop.
Yeah,
well,
you
actually,
guys.
I'm not.
What the
I'm
fuck is a
no,
Michael Bay movie?
Let me
Excuse
bring out
me.
my
What
Do
Hallmark.
we
what
want to start
happens
talking
in a
about the
Michael Bay
milking
movie?
minotaurs? Hold on. Do we
There's
want to start talking about heated rivalries?
there
Please
is
really
stop getting
no.
that bullshit.
I don't know
watch
what.
something.
Women
What?
Something.
consume Hallmark at an abysmal level. Are you fucking
You
kidding me?
guys
Of
love
course.
drama
There's no
content.
way
You
you're
guys
saying that.
love it. Don't even
yeah,
act like
yeah,
it.
sure.
Okay? And then
Can't deny that.
also, literally what is Michael Bay? There's no plot to any of his movies. I don't know what is going on. There's just explosions and I fall asleep through that too. So get
And-
better
That's
media.
men.
That's the plot.
and men,
Something
they want to
blows up.
watch
It's not
men.
for you.
Fucking awesome.
Hold on. Sorry.
And
What
we're
were your names?
criticizing for it.
Stan
We're
with
like,
Sophie.
Michael
Can I
Bay,
just
why
call you
don't you have
Sophie?
like 10 minutes of talking in,
Yeah,
this,
that's
in this Transformers blow shit up movie?
Sophie, what did you have to say? I'm sorry, you got interrupted a little
No,
bit.
just saying. She was saying what's the common denominator in Michael Bay movies, and it's men.
And it's
Okay.
just explosions. I'm so bored I just fall asleep through it. So,
$5 from little Dickie Deegs to say, 1, I just like Marlowe, and 2, how the fuck could you blame women for Star Wars sucking when it's men that let them do it? Curious.
Ooh, shit.
That's
Let
classic. If there's any man involved,
Yes,
we have the
yeah, I
one drop
understand.
rule. We have the one drop rule for semen when it comes to any kind of social problem. If there was a man within 5 degrees of separation from a person who did something bad and that person has a pussy, then it's men's fault because he set that system up. That's what we mean by a difference between accountability. It's like, hey, why are all these chicks getting like way lower sentences?
You're using the phrase
Way
"one
more
drop
family court
rule."
support.
I don't think you know what that means.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Thanks
I'm
for
gonna
reminding
say
us
something
that you're
funny.
still.
I know that the one drop rule does not refer to semen. That's why it's funny.
Yes, it was a good joke.
Well,
Okay.
thanks for reminding us that we're responsible for your behavior because we got to treat you guys like children. Otherwise, you go off and do
No,
fucking
no,
shit.
it's
Like,
your mother.
yeah,
It's your
exactly.
mother. That's no. Your
Hey,
mother.
in pursuit of cock, I'm talking. Okay, shut up. Stuff it. Okay.
Oh, no wonder
Anyway,
you like
how
men
about
so much.
let's move to
You
something
want
a
my
little
dick.
more.
God
Let's
damn. All
Okay,
right.
I want to
something
hold
a
on
little-
just real quick.
No.
Just one, real quick. Kung Fu Joe, are you done?
No, well, I wanted to do like a serious question, follow it up after the
Okay,
trolly
what's your
one.
serious
Let's
question?
move with that.
Yeah, it's very simply, like, why do you get to vote me to go to war if you're not eligible for the
God.
draft and you can't
Look,
fight
I
the
just
war?
did a 2-hour
system
thing with
up.
stream
Go
rates
watch
on
Pearls.
this.
Go
Which
watch
gender
Pearls
set
debate
that
Kung Fu
system
Joe.
up?
Listen. Just
Listen.
because men set the system up doesn't mean that we are not responsible for the system. Also, it's still our country, it's still our world, right? We're all adults here. And listen, I just spent like a fucking 3-hour conversation with fucking Stream Riffs and Wix server getting him to walk back that women should vote because I think it's egalitarian and fair for women to be included in the draft and for us to only have half of the population drafted at a time. I don't think all of you guys should be fucking sent off to war. I think half of you and half of us. I think it makes perfectly good goddamn sense.
No.
Well, the thing that
I don't
bothers
want
me.
you. Hold
You
on.
want a woman
The thing
driving
that
a
bothers
tank?
wait,
Is that
before
fucking
this guy
insane? This is the
answers,
best you could come up with?
can I just say, before this guy answers, I'm gonna predict something, right? And that is that, like, I feel like majority of the dudes who bring up the draft as an argument, as soon as you're like, yeah, I agree with women being drafted too, signing up for selective service as well, they're like, oh, I don't want women as part of the thing. Oh, I don't want that. So it's like, which one do you
Yeah,
want?
let
Like,
me show you.
do you want women in supporting roles? Of course, women aren't going to be in the
You
same
don't get
roles
to
as you.
vote.
We're like different. The sexes are different.
You
Yeah, no
don't
shit,
get to
Sherlock.
vote. It's that simple.
No, I
That's
think
the
we should
answer.
vote.
You don't get to vote.
Just because you took Starship Troopers seriously, and
You
you
don't
think
get
that,
to vote.
You guys
citizenship,
made Star Wars.
yeah,
You
demands
don't get to
service equals
vote.
citizenship.
In
Doesn't
pursuit,
mean that we
in
actually want
pursuit
that
of
in
cock,
society.
you shouldn't be
Okay,
able to
okay,
vote either. To be fair.
okay. Dusty, I want to give you the mic. You've been very well behaved. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I haven't seen any of the new Star Wars stuff, so I don't have any opinion on it.
Dog shit.
Marlo, you said that earlier. You said that how'd you phrase it? That men are socially retarded or something like that.
I kind of agree with that.
Don't you think that that was kind of a socially retarded thing to say, though?
Saying true facts. Is that
How
Is
would
it
you
true
hold her?
facts or is it an
Dusty, let me
opinion?
ask you,
How
Dusty.
did you
Dusty,
measure that?
how would you hold her accountable for that?
Well, I wouldn't. It's not my responsibility to hold her accountable, but I would challenge it like I'm doing now.
Go
See, I
ahead.
would challenge you there on that. I think that a society is a collection of adult individuals, right, who all agree that their behavior matters. And I think that in order for me to say that my behavior matters, I think it's also the case that I should be able to say that your behavior matters and vice versa, right? My
You have
claim
no
is that, like,
recourse.
I'm so sorry.
You have no recourse, so you can't actually hold anybody else accountable. You can complain about it, about their behavior,
Well, sure.
but
But and like obviously there are like some channels through which like a recourse can be achieved, right? Like you could dox my ass and call my boss and tell him I'm a fucking fag or something. Like it doesn't
Hey,
matter.
hold on, whoa. None of that. No F slur. Sorry.
Oh my
She's
god,
lesbian.
women being held accountable.
Don't do that.
I'm so proud of you,
he has,
Wick.
he
Sorry, I
has
was testing
recourse.
you. Fundamentally, it is shown in quite a lot of especially of what Stardust brought to our panel as well, that like men's verbal reasoning ability develops slower, right? Men's internalization mechanisms and their psychostructure are less developed even into adulthood. Your frontal cortex develops more slowly, right? And like these are things that tend to offer themselves toward being emotionally regressed, right? In comparison with women. This
Talking
presents
about
challenges to you. This is a disadvantage that
speed.
men face. Say what?
You're talking about speed. Slower. Women develop faster. That is true.
Yeah. And like like basically until we're all 30 years old, you guys are a little bit socially retarded. Like you don't agree with that?
I don't agree with that. No, I mean I
On
see what you're saying
grounds.
about the speed of
What
development.
does retardation mean though? Doesn't that mean like
Yeah,
You're
slower?
taking
Yeah.
that as a
slow.
pejorative, and it's not. It's just the
But
definition.
the
Like just
literal
you're
definition
slower.
is slower, yeah.
Yeah, retardation means
What was the
slower.
phrase you used?
Say what?
It means malformed.
It
A
What does
retarded
it
is
mean to
unformed.
when
Unformed.
retarded retard literally in retard
Latin for
literally
slow.
means
To prevent-
delay
to
or
prevent
hold
the
back.
development.
When you retard, it says verb
undeveloped.
delay or hold back in terms of progress, development, or accomplishment.
Wait,
So delay,
Stardust,
yeah,
A
Stardust, you're reading a
retarder.
definition right now, right?
yes.
Okay. Do you see Kung Fu Joe's picture when that comes up or no? Is that okay?
You know, actually, I didn't see it before, but when I click show more, it does come up. So that was actually,
All right.
yeah.
Excellent. All right.
Retarding agent is it
Bro,
prevents
anytime
the
you want a
development.
one-on-one debate, dude, anytime.
Why don't we just do this? Let's see who can get into the draft. How about that?
When
You,
was
you
the
said
last
you
time
care
there
about the
was a
draft so much.
Yeah, let's see. Speaking of the draft, I had to
Wait,
go
wait,
back to that point.
I
Okay,
retract
yeah,
my
I know. I
complaint.
knew
Let
you
me
wanted
go
to
back
take
to that point earlier.
a loser.
If I had a
I'm sorry.
choice,
I'm
if
sorry
any
I
of you,
derailed it. It's just it's so easy to fucking get this fucking guy triggered. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I
Nope.
had to do it.
No,
triggered
it's
by
fine.
you, bro,
I
I don't
just,
even know who
it's
the
like,
fuck you are.
Oh, yeah,
actually,
totally
this guy
triggered.
is
Sorry.
actually retarded. Actually, if anybody's retarded on this panel, is that guy, because he's talking about, oh, well, you guys don't even get drafted. Well, even if you did get drafted, I wouldn't want you in my army. So, like, what is it, bro? Do you want people who
Why
can
the
serve
fuck
you
would I
food
want
or
you?
shit?
Why would
Like,
I want you
damn,
next to me?
dude,
Alright,
you don't
watch
fucking care. You just want to take
watch
away. You just want to take voting
that's
away from
using it
half the
pejoratively.
population. You're
No,
stupid.
hold on.
You're a
Hold on.
retard.
Let me show you. Let me show you how retarded
You're
this
probably
is.
too
Watch,
fat.
okay?
You're probably
So-
too fat to
no,
be
no,
drafted
no. Look,
anyways.
you're so mad. You're so mad. I understand.
Yeah, are
you're
you
so super
flat-footed?
mad.
You're
Here, look at
probably
this.
fat and flat-footed, and that'll probably get you
nope,
disqualified
nope.
anyways. Don't worry about it. Don't
Sorry,
worry
I
about
am-
the draft.
Oh,
Hey, I'm
Sweetie,
fat and flat.
Sweetie, I could beat up 4 of you at a time.
Oh,
Okay,
I'm not
you wouldn't
denying.
stand a chance.
I'm not
all right?
denying that.
Hold on.
Women. Wait, I'm not
Everyone-
denying that.
everyone
I'm not
stop,
denying that. Women are.
Everyone stop. I have a question. How many women have you beaten in your life, Kung Fu Joe?
That's a good question.
You said you could beat up 4 of Star here. I'm just wondering how much practice you've had. How many women have you beaten in your life?
Well, the thing is, if I'm good at, if I've beaten men up, and the average men are like 4 times stronger than the average woman, then that's pretty. I'd use that as my measure. Okay?
You think
about what's
that
the
women
most
are only
women-
useful
Hold on, you didn't
in
answer my
combat
question,
roles?
though.
this is your side. Just take it in.
I
Okay?
mean, like, if I had look,
No, the thing
quick,
is,
just real quick, if I hadn't beaten
why?
any women,
You
which
like
I haven't
popcorner
in my
over there?
life,
That guy
I
would
would
get
just say I
dropped
haven't beaten
super
any
fast.
women. It would be an easy answer. Why the dodge there, buddy?
There's no dodge. The thing is that what I
So
want to get back
0 is your
to,
answer, or 4 or 5? How many women have you beaten?
6,
I
7.
just I don't even need to have experience. I just know, like when I
Okay, but I'm
wrestle
just
with,
asking you the question: how much experience have you had?
I've wrestled a lot of women. Yeah,
Okay, can I just say, I have never once in my life said
I've
that women are
pinned
as
a lot
strong
of
as
women.
men.
Yes.
I have never said women are as strong as men. In fact, that's one of my primary arguments why we need to hold
great.
men to a higher standard, right? But
Great.
also,
No,
wait,
you
excuse
need to
me.
be held to a higher standard.
Excuse me, I'm still speaking,
if
sir. Excuse me, sir, I'm still
hold on.
speaking.
That's
Excuse me, sir, I'm
retarded.
still speaking.
Oh, a
Excuse me,
woman
sir,
is
I'm still
speaking. A
speaking.
woman
I'm
is
still
speaking.
speaking, sir.
I don't
I didn't
believe you
finish
have
my
the right
point,
to
sir.
speak over
Excuse me,
me.
sir.
Sorry.
I'm still speaking,
I
sir.
don't think you have
I'm
the
still
right to
speaking.
speak over
I
me.
do have the right to
Hold
speak
on.
because
There's
we're
order in
talking
the
about the
court, order in
draft.
the
We're
court.
talking about the draft.
Stardust, finish your point.
Look
Okay,
how mad you
I'm
are.
finishing my point. I'm not mad. I'm having fun.
You're so
If I can
mad.
finish my point,
Who
yes,
gave you the right to speak over me?
I did.
I have the
did.
right. I gave
Go ahead,
myself the
Stardust,
right as
please.
well.
Yeah, right.
So,
Another man. Right. Exactly.
yes, exactly. Okay, so, sir, excuse me, sir. You think you don't even want women in the army anyways, despite the fact that not every role in the military is a combat role, and you can probably have people doing things like flying shit or people serving food, right? Are these people not contributing members of the military? Do you not want people to fill those roles so more men can be in these important combat roles? I'm not saying that women and men are equal physically. I'm saying that we are equal morally as people. So
Okay, so
yeah, we are
you're
equally
telling me we
deserving of the
needed the
vote.
draft.
Yeah.
Now we gotta let him speak. We gotta let him
So we
respond. Go
needed.
ahead.
So you're telling me we needed the draft to draft women into an army-sized kitchen. Great job.
Sure, yeah, people need to eat.
We needed
And
the
you know
draft to get
the
women
military
to come in and do women things.
So why
for
don't
the
you speak to
military,
some
right? That's what
military
you're saying?
military service members? They would probably take huge issue with you talking shit about kitchen staff. They would.
Engineers and like there's all kinds of incredible support roles and like besides and like
You
active
guys do not. No, look at
infantry.
this. This is
Go
so
ahead,
unfair
Marlo. Go ahead,
because
Marlo. Go ahead, Marlo. Please finish your
if
point,
we're
Marlo.
on the battlefield,
Hold on.
right,
Kung Fu, just
and
because
you
you're a
get
weak
shot
ass
in the
bitch.
leg,
Hold on.
Hold on.
Just
Hold
because
on.
you're
Hold
a
on.
weak
Order in
you
the
ass
court.
bitch.
Order in the
leg,
court.
I gotta carry you. If I gotta carry you, right? If I get shot in the leg, there is no way you're carrying.
I'm not saying
I
you
would never
carry me.
choose you to
I'm
be
not
my
going to be on the
battle
fucking
partner, ever.
I would
battlefield.
leave you specifically on the
Yeah,
battlefield.
you never
Run away
should.
with
You can't
you.
get drafted.
You're
That's
too
right. You
fat
can't
to
get
carry
drafted,
anybody
and that's why
anyways. You
shouldn't
can't
vote.
carry shit.
You shouldn't
Okay.
vote.
Okay.
You've never
Okay.
seen
Okay.
me, dude.
Okay. Marlo, please. Marlo, please.
So I look, Kung Fu Joe. First of all, to be clear, if you got shot in the leg while we were on the battlefield together, I shot you. Just so you know, I would not carry you because I'm the one that did that. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing is like, look, man, I don't want to be a fucking combat role. Okay, I don't want to be. Neither does any man. Like, I mean, there's a lot of really genuinely honor deserving and like valorous men that are doing a lot of really insane, cool combat shit,
Yeah.
right? But like paratroopers, that is a small faction of what like armed forces is. Infantry, riflemen, like we're moving further and further away from sending boots on the ground into countries that we want to. If we just want to have a country, we can just go have it. You can just bunker bust Iran and do whatever you fucking want. Why would we send people like human capital into a war zone? We don't have to anymore. We got drones.
Yeah, we don't really.
We're quite literally
Just
moving.
to clarify, to differentiate myself from Joe, who's making men look bad here, my primary issue with women in the military is the mental aspect. It's not the physical aspect, right? Running isn't, there's not much difference between men and women in terms of leg strength. It's mostly in terms of upper body strength. But the mental aspect of like, left, right, left, right, left, right. That's, for women, it's more like left, left. I tripped and I shot somebody. That's terrible. I don't want that person in position of a tank. Hey, don't move. What? Going straight for you, okay? I don't want to put our honorable servicemen in a self-defense situation.
It's a woman who
listen, there's a lot of terrain out there that's very difficult to cross, and we need it we need bridges for vehicles. The bridge ahead has been designed by a woman. That's not good enough.
True.
If he has an engineering degree, yeah, it is.
I strongly suggest like NASA using women as astronauts suggests that there's some aspect, right, of like female psyche and like psychostructural fucking like how we're built up
You
here
know,
lends us to teamwork and a lot of like intelligence roles,
Yes.
engineering roles.
And if I can
It- the-
piggyback off of her on this,
so
if I can
just real
piggyback off
quick,
of
just
her,
real quick to interject with some fun facts on astronauts and women and astronauts, especially in the early stages of the space program, because this is just a fun fact. A lot of the astronauts' wives were very, very opposed to women going up with male astronauts because initially they were looking into the reason they wanted female astronauts is to have babies, right? During long space flights and long space voyages. So they were basically up there to have sex with, right? That was the initial kind of foray into what can we do with women in space. And that's what the minds of the time initially looked into. Now, obviously that changed over time, right? But a lot of the astronaut wives, and you can read this is true, right? Were very, very upset when they learned
if
that
I
their
could,
husbands were going to go on
yeah.
space voyages with these
Bro,
women.
if you're
If I
if
could-
you're
that
not
was the
even on the
understanding.
planet anymore, I don't think it counts. Okay. I'm just
Okay,
saying.
if I can
It's not
piggyback
cheating.
off of what Marla was saying,
Zip code. It's not
if I
even
can-
the same planet,
okay.
bro.
if I could
Go
piggyback
ahead,
off
go
of
ahead.
Not the
what,
same zip
yes,
code. That's my favorite
what Marla
acronym.
was saying is, there have been studies showing that female doctors actually have better outcomes for their patients than male doctors, right? So I mean, it's not like there are roles that aren't able to be filled by women in the military, right? And they can fill these roles meaningfully and contribute really, really like meaningfully to the, to
So,
the military in general. But wait, let me finish. Let me finish. Okay.
Go ahead.
Now I forgot it. God damn it, Wick. Go ahead. Finish
No
what you were
problem.
saying.
So just as a someone who's actually served in the military, right? Not as an infantry, to be clear. I was in the Air Force. But we do require
Force.
infantry. We do require security forces. We do require these things because we do hold resources and protect them. I'll give you an example. Venezuela, right? When we do take that over, regardless of whether you think we should or not, we will have to have boots on the ground, quote unquote. We will have to have people, servicemen, not just drones, right? Who are guarding, occupying, doing checkpoints, security checkpoints, all those will have to be manned by a soldier, right? And so we do still have a need and a use for these things. And there's other in actual combat, there's other roles, but I won't get into that too much. But I just wanted to
Yeah.
correct that.
I mean, again, I would say again, like the utility of having, like, it's like these guys who always make this argument, women shouldn't be allowed to vote because they don't get drafted. Well, when we're like, yeah, I think women should contribute, they should contribute to these things. Then it's like, well, I don't even want them as part of the draft anyways, right? And so it's just is like, there's no winning with these
They
people.
don't want you because
Yeah.
when
Yeah,
they
No, the
envision
win is you don't
themselves,
get to vote. That's the win.
Yeah,
Well,
but
no,
see,
like,
we're
the thing is,
morally
like,
equal
just-
but we are morally equal people. Just because we're not as strong as men, just because we have been socialized to do different things, doesn't mean that we're worth less morally. And like we should have
Hold
the
on,
ability
let
and
me
the
ask you, Stardust.
agency.
I
We
wanna
should
ask
have the
Stardust a
agency
question.
and the ability to
Kung
make
Fu Joe is
decisions
We're
and
not mentally
contribute.
equal.
And
Kung Fu Joe
we
is
are mentally equal.
clearly
We are mentally
retarded.
equal.
Number one. Number two, he's worth less to the American society for the simple fact that he is not able to have children. He cannot give birth.
He already has kids, dumb
he
fuck.
went and wrestled like 6 or 7 women. I don't know if that was consensual in any way, but apparently he has some. I don't know. That's why
No,
he says that. But anyway, we won't get down there. But the fact
no,
that
it wasn't.
women contribute more to society by letting us have their children, their offspring, to continue this great American experiment. And the fact that we have fucking loser ass bitches like Kung Fu Joe who won't
Oh,
serve
so
in the
mad,
military.
so
And that
mad.
was
Because-
also
yeah, because-
that was something that I wanted to
because
touch
you're a
on.
fucking
That's
cretin.
So
You're a
mad,
fucking
you're
loser
so
ass.
mad.
Okay.
in pursuit
Okay,
of
so mad. Okay,
friends.
where's
If
the
I can
wife
just
and
touch
kids?
on that
Where's your wife
briefly.
and kids?
If I can just
Oh, okay. So just as a housekeeping issue, right? If you want this panel to go on, if you want to keep having this kind of content, you got to pay for it. I don't work for free, okay? I'm an expensive entertainment option. So in the next 10 minutes, we're going to need $50 to continue, and then we'll go another like 20 or 30 minutes until we get more. But $50 in super chats or gift subs, bits, some combination of the three. Pay up, people. But I know Sophie's been trying to get in here, and I want to give it to Sophie. And then Marlo had her hand up, and I want to give it to Marlo. So Sophie, then Marlo, and
Well, I was
Dusty or Ash, if you want to get into it too, please.
no, thanks, Wig. I was just curious what military branch Kung Fu Joe serves in.
What the fuck does that matter?
Yeah, none, because he's a retard,
Well,
bitch.
I guess
Loser ass.
because
What the
like
fuck does
what
that
it sounds
matter?
like what it sounds like is that your real issue is that you only want to be in foxholes and in close quarters and in private spaces with sweaty
Yeah, nice straw
men.
man.
Like you
Great.
just don't want the
No,
women to be there with you. And we can respect that,
listen.
you know? That's
If
perfectly
if
fine.
they're look how let me show you how simple it is,
There's
right?
nothing wrong with that.
If I get drafted, I'm supposed to go to the front lines, right? But they're like
They're
top
not sending
corner there is
you.
like,
They're
well,
not sending you to
women
the
should
front
get
line.
drafted
Sorry,
too. Will
bro.
you shut the
They'll
fuck
give
up?
you one bullet.
No one cares about
We know
this.
They'll
you
give
don't.
you
Let me
We
one
know
land
bullet.
the
that you
plane,
don't
Okay.
want
dude.
us.
Hold
Okay,
on.
you
No, I'm
understand?
gonna land it.
Okay.
I'm gonna land it. I don't
Thank
care
you,
how
thank
painful
you.
it
Run
is.
a run a mucker 4 for the 10 gifted Twitch subs. Thank you for that. That's really appreciative.
Nice.
And then $20 from Adam Refriended to say part 1 of 3. When relationship and lifestyle liberation emerged in the 60s, 70s, feminism framed it as freedom from the patriarchy. But in practice, it appears modeled on the behaviors of the top 10 to 20% of socially successful men. $20 more from Adam Refriended to say it feels like feminism then treated the outcomes of those elite men as evidence of universal male power, even though most men never experienced anything close to that level of sexual access. Comments, questions?
Okay, so
Go ahead.
feminism isn't necessarily about sexual access, right? Like, I mean, when we're talking about you know, early feminism, right? We're talking about women being, again, compensated for their labor, right? Women having the agency and the ability to go out and get a job and work and support themselves and have the freedom to go and do these things, right? We're also talking about you know, having workplaces that are a little bit more friendly to women who eventually do want to have kids, right? So I mean, it's not necessarily about like you know, it's not about sexual access, and it's not even about the 10% of men or whatever, right? We're talking about there are boys clubs, even in there were boys clubs even in like you know, relatively not very high up roles, right? And the ability to, you know, women wanted the ability to advance even, right? So I mean,
Well, we can guess the only type of children Kung Fu Joe wants to have. So
And look,
I
and
already
then
have
the
kids.
final, the Return of the King portion of this super chat chain, the part 3, Adam Refriended says a classical liberal approach would instead ask what happened across the entire population average, men and women, and what trade-offs emerged. Has feminism ever seriously grappled with that distributional mismatch?
I think
Absolutely
it.
not.
I
And you
think it
could go
has.
to
Go ahead,
Stardust
Ash. I wanna
analysis
hear from
just a
Ash.
moment ago. The Stardust analysis just a moment ago is like, well, it wasn't necessarily about sexual access, even if that does produce a wildly different outcome. It's about removing the boys' clubs. But removing the boys' clubs came at the cost of social opportunities, not just advancement, but hiring to begin with for young men.
At the
So it doesn't.
disadvantage of women, though, overwhelmingly, right? At the disadvantage of women. So we would leave things in place, and
I'm
women would just
sorry?
continue to be
No,
disadvantaged.
priority hiring for women is not
We're not
disadvantage.
talking about priority hiring, right? I'm not talking about the advent of
But you
even.
should be if you're talking about trade-offs across society. If
We're
your
talking.
only
What I was
focus is
mentioning was
on the
early
improvements
feminism,
that can be
right?
made for you.
I'm talking about
Okay.
early feminism, right? And even if we look at like other countries, right? Like you look at like places like India, even the past like 50 years, the women would go with their husbands to go work on the farm, and their labor would get counted under their husband's labor instead of being counted as their own labor, right? And then their husband would make the money off of what the two of them
I don't care
contributed
about
in
that whole
labor.
country. So
Yeah,
refer
but
to
like
the United States of America.
we're talking about feminism as a whole. Like I'm pretty sure Adam Refrended was
No, we're
also
talking
talking
about it
feminism as a
in the Anglosphere context. That's what this
okay,
entire
even in the
conversation is based.
Anglosphere context, that's still relevant because we're talking about when early feminism was. We're talking about the non-compensation of women for a variety of different types of labor, right? Taking care of children and taking care of the house. These are not things that are like things that would cost you otherwise. You're getting a living maid, you know, and then women. What happens to women when they are working? For their husband, and then they get divorced, and that woman now hasn't been in the workforce for
free,
20 fucking years, right? She hasn't been in the workforce for 20 fucking years, and then she has to go get a job all of a sudden, and she's at ground zero because she was busy helping take care of the house so her husband could advance in his career.
Yeah, no,
take
that does
accountability
suck,
for your
if we're looking
divorce.
at the, yeah, if that does suck, but that's not the modern situation whatsoever.
I
If we're
mean,
looking
no,
at
it
the
is the modern situation. Women are
going
still in
no,
that
it isn't,
situation.
because you're
Women
not
are still
taking
in that
into account-
situation.
No, because you're not taking into account the trade-offs again of, for instance, paying for somebody to live at home and being saddled with the responsibility of making sure their needs are met and making sure that you are now the one provider. So if you get, for instance, into an economic recession, if your job is lost, now you're responsible primarily not just for your wife's needs, your wife's for her free rent, her free food, her free everything. You're now also responsible for the children as well. So when we're talking about whether or not you evaluate trade-offs, you don't, because you only focus on, remember, women's unpaid labor. Do you think that men don't like mow the grass? Do you think that they don't do any construction work?
I'm sorry, men do not on the same level.
I will say that
women
I
do
shoveled the driveway this morning. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
Let's give it to
men do not. Men do
let's give it to
unpaid labor,
Marlo.
but not to the same extent that women do. Like they just don't. Like when it
Because
comes
it's
to
offset by
a family member gets sick, who's the one taking? When a family member gets sick, an elderly person gets sick. Who's the one taking time off from their job and taking care of that person?
That's
Marlo,
a
go ahead.
$3 an hour
Hold on.
job to give somebody some tea in Robitussin, just to be clear.
Stardust.
It's worth
Marlo, go ahead. Marlo.
I think we're doing that thing where we're comparing again when this is actually a good opportunity to do an internal critique, right? Because like the idea, because like a traditional marriage, like especially in Western, like is a mutually beneficial setup, right? The argument is not that a traditional marriage disadvantages either party, right? It doesn't. It is a really tight system that advantages all parties. But if we're saying that we want to have a culture where people can participate in either traditional marriages or live as a single person or have whatever fucking structure of family life that they want to fucking have. Like that's a more free society, right? And so what we're like we're missing the point here. Traditional marriages are cool and based, and like totally fine and not hurting anybody. But having a society where like there's this expectation that that is the only form of adult pairing, like that's retarded. Like what are we arguing about? Feminism is about making the society freer so that people who want to have their own life the way they want to fucking have it can do that.
Right. Can I just add a caveat? Can I add a caveat that traditional marriages can work excellently. They can be based if they are working the right way, right? And if the people who are in them are not like they're without wanting to be there, right?
Hold on, just real quick. For every single type of relationship you could ever have.
Sure, but again, there are disadvantages.
If you're polyamorous, if you're in a gay relationship,
I would say that there are more disadvantages.
Around, right? All of that can
if something
work.
happens to your husband,
if I may, just real quick, like all of these things can work if you do it the right way, right? All of these things can work in certain circumstances. The question I think that we should be asking when it comes to the different types of relationships there's a few questions, right? To what degree do we think that a certain style of relationship is beneficial to the society overall? What should society encourage, right? The second question we should be looking at is to what degree should we tolerate deviations, whatever setup that we decide is best for society? And the third question we should ask is at what point should we forbid a certain style of um, pairing, if you will. And that, different societies will have it. I mean, I have my own answer to that, right? But that's the three
Yeah.
questions that should be on
I,
people's
Yeah, let
again,
me
minds.
I'm
jump in
not
here because I think
personally.
Stardust
I'm
was
not.
making a valid point, and I'm very good at
Yeah.
speaking for women. Just to be clear, Stardust was making a valid point when it
I.
comes to.
The hair does it.
I'm
True.
excellent at it, frankly. When it comes to listen, when it comes to the failure states of these relationships, yes, you could say if it works, then it's good for everybody about every kind of relationship. But really, what the thrust of Stardust criticism it goes to who do the failure states of these relationships? Where do the consequences accrue? And they disproportionately negatively impact the woman in the case of a traditional marriage failing to the woman in a way that's unfair and quite frankly disastrous that we don't want to see, especially in a world where no fault divorce is the norm. However, to answer your third question, I think that lying about the disadvantages of those relationships and lying about the circumstances, the idea that I'm working a full time job, potentially more, potentially two, and I have some equal responsibility for the chores. This is like a
Well.
slave
Well.
relationship. This is
Okay.
quite frankly completely disgusting.
Yeah.
I
Sure.
don't
If
think
I
that
can
you should be in a
interject.
relationship
Yeah.
for like the next 20 years if you say that
You can
publicly.
have
That's
some
Sure.
personal
totally
Wait a minute.
responsibility for
Hey.
the
Can I
household. Come
just
on. What do you
interject really?
mean? What are
Can
you
I
talking
just
about?
can I just
Well,
interject
that's
really
Go ahead.
so
quickly?
shitty. Oh,
So
my
wait a
free
minute.
labor, not
Wait a
your
minute.
like
Wait a
paid
minute.
labor that
Can we
accrues to
can
me.
we can we can we can we pause for a second here? Okay. I think we're talking about two different relationships. If we're talking about a traditional I'm not necessarily against traditional relationships, but like you said, that in a traditional relationship, generally, if you shouldn't be doing nearly as many chores as the woman in that traditional relationship, right? That generally the brunt of that falls on the woman, and as a result, because she sacrifices those years to take care of your house and make sure that you can go out and make money and take care of your kids and raise them and all of that, you're right that when these traditional marriages fail, the massive, the majority of the disadvantages do fall onto the woman, right? Again, I am not somebody who's against a traditional marriage. Like I think I think I live a pretty traditional life, like outside of what I argue about online, right? But I think that we need to be realistic. Like, yes, we can be realistic that men can come home after they've done a full job or they do two jobs because their wife's a stay-at-home wife. And they do some chores, right? But I think generally in a traditional marriage,
Yeah,
when I'm
you can
thinking of
always take
that,
a little bit more. You can
when
always
I'm
take a little
when
bit more.
I'm
That's
when
not
I'm
quick.
wait
traditional
a minute,
marriage.
wait a
Just
minute.
real
When
quick,
I'm talking
When
about a
it comes to
traditional
lying
marriage,
about the state,
when I'm
$10.
talking about
$10.
okay.
$10. Sorry, the money is more important than any of you. I'm over it, man. From Adam Refriended. Stardust just doesn't get the struggles of average guys, and that's the real issue in politics and social media. By the way, great stream, Wick TV. Later. Well, thank you for the $10.
Thank you, Adam Refriended. I appreciate you contributing as many super chats as you did, trying to explain to me. I'm sorry, I have a small woman brain.
Thank you.
I don't understand what you were trying to say. But I will say, maybe you don't understand the struggles of an average woman, okay, or an average to mid or to mid-low woman, okay? Maybe you don't
Well,
understand that.
let me jump in here
And
really quickly because
can I just finish one
what
point?
Nelson is saying. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay. I just want to say, Nelson, I understand that you're saying, but when I think of a traditional marriage, I'm not thinking of a man who it has any chores when he comes home, So, but I don't know. I could be wrong on that. Everybody
because
has
you
a
could
different,
always take a
yeah.
little bit more.
So,
Okay, Sophie, you wanted to get in here, and then I see you, Marlo, so go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that in in my relationship, the shoes are on the other foot. I'm the breadwinner. My husband is the
Mhm.
one who, stays at home with the kids and stuff. And even with those flipped roles, I still disagree with you, Nelson. I wouldn't want those gender disparities where I feel like I hold something over my husband because I'm the one bringing home the money. And he also doesn't come into our relationship where he does everything and expects me to just sit on my ass. Like I still have things I do around the house. Like we have a very
Mhm.
strong partnership, which kind of goes back to what Marlo was saying. And if I can actually answer your, oh, I'm so sorry. I don't give a shit what you're saying. To answer Wick's question,
Based.
when it comes back to the idea of what is the traditional relationship, what is the relationship that falls outside of the quote unquote norm, which ones are, starting to be, I guess, abhorrent to a point where they should be forbidden. You have to understand, like, like it kind of depends. I don't think it's really appropriate to look at that democratically because even if we were back in the 1970s, me, a black woman, would not be allowed to marry my white husband, and so it's kind of like, okay, if we want to look at, okay, today we might say that they're attacking like gay
But you would agree
rights and they're trying to
certain
revoke.
just real quick, Sophie, you would agree
Yeah.
certain pairings should be, legislated against, like, stopped, forbidden, correct?
I think that when it comes to that, they are already legislated against. So like
Yeah,
I wouldn't agree with child marriage,
sure.
but pedophilia is already illegal. And
Okay.
statutory rape is already illegal.
So just
So
to be clear, child marriage is not illegal in the
Yeah,
US.
child marriage is still legal in quite a few states, but yeah, but I see what you're saying.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Mormon. Sorry.
right, right. I mean, but I guess you take
I
my
do get
meaning.
your
Like as
meaning.
far
Yeah.
as yeah. So yeah, I do feel like there are things that, are abhorrent. But I would say like that just kind of goes back to like what's going to harm someone else. So I think if you're in a relationship where, you're in a throuple, you're polyamorous, whatever, as long as you're not harming someone else, that's perfectly fine. But I think then like say that you bring a child into that situation. If there are, studies that show that children in these sort of situations are, uh, more likely to suffer some sort of harm, then I'd say you could bring that case that perhaps we should uh, legislate or regulate, deviant sort of relationships, if you want to call it that. But for the most part, I just feel like, if people are doing whatever they want, let them do what they want. They're not harming anybody. Like I
Uh-huh.
just don't see the
But
problem with it.
these people don't see, they see that as harming society, right? A lot of the maggots, that's what they believe in. And to be serious for here a second, I know I was joking on kung fu a lot, but the whole idea that Ash had earlier is that how you can always take a little bit more. The man has to just a little bit more, and I understand where that frustration comes from. I've been in several relationships where that disconnect was not communicated correctly. The
Just to be
only
clear,
way to
with
really
women?
do that, yes, with women. Yes,
Okay,
I'm
just
very
making
straight.
sure, okay, there's a
Unfortunately,
difference.
men are
Doubt,
superior, but I'm not gay. So, I'm stuck with having women.
massive
So,
doubt, massive doubt,
I know you want my cock, but we'll talk about that
massive
later.
Yeah,
doubt.
you
Anyway,
guys can
so
DM each other if that's what you want, but,
yeah.
like,
So,
yeah.
but to be serious, the main thrust, the whole point of this is about communication. It's about opening up a trusting relationship, one on one. There's a big problem where we have conservative maggots trying to impose their worldview upon everyone when they don't believe in these principles to themselves. Okay,
Can I ask
they
you a
always
question in pursuit in
go ahead.
this?
Go ahead.
Are you a capitalist, right? Do you believe that
Yes, I'm a
capitalism
capitalist.
is kinda like the superior form, right? So
I look at it as the same way. This was a great question.
Uh-oh.
So whenever you talk about like forms of government, and I'm going to answer your question. When you ever talk about forms of
it's the
government, you're
economic
always
form, to be
talking
clear.
about. I
Capitalism is
know,
the economic, not the
I
governance
know, I
form.
know, but
It's just a
it's the
quick
same vein. It's the same thinking that I have. You have probably the best form of government is probably a good monarchy. Someone that's able, a good king that's able to make every single
That's a
thing. Hold
spicy
on,
take.
give it a second. Give it a
This is a
second.
spicy
Okay,
take.
I'll land it. I'll land the plane. The whole idea is that we have a good king. We have somebody that's a leader, somebody that knows exactly the will of all the people. That in that way they're able to make society a better world and everyone in that
Bro, I just
society a better
asked you
world.
about
Oh, you don't
I know,
have
no,
to
no,
be
no.
AI.
able to do
But what I'm
that.
and then the second form is a good democracy. Okay. And then the tier before that, a bad democracy, and the worst we can ever have is a bad monarchy.
Okay, I'm asking about
So to ask
capitalism.
about capitalism, so far,
Holy
it
shit.
is the best form that we can get. Okay.
Of
If
economics.
we could
Okay.
have
So in that
communism and
case,
it worked,
because I
okay,
got follow-up. I got follow-ups.
okay,
I
I
just wanted to
gotcha.
establish that. I didn't need the lore, right?
I
This is what you
I
get for
do.
Hold
breast
on, just
cancer,
let me ask
Ross.
you the question, please. I'm
I know.
asking you a
Okay,
question. So if you
go ahead.
believe that capitalism is the superior form of economic transactions, things like that, why not make all your relationships transactional?
In a lot of ways, they
Like a
are.
good capitalist would.
No,
Like
no, no, no. That's
uh
something. No, 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 no. Wait, Wick. This is something that's
And
not
most
talked about
are.
in psychology enough. We as humans, we do have transactional relationships. I'll give you an example. If you have a best friend and you guys, known each other since kindergarten, okay? And then every birthday they
How
get
much
you a
for a bro
gift.
job
Yeah,
would you charge
would I
to
charge
your friend?
for a
Like, say
blow
you and Kung
job?
Fu Joe were friends. How much would you charge him?
They're best friends. It's probably
To
free.
$69
give him a bro
just for the
job?
memes, just for
Just
the
curious.
memes. Yeah, no. $69. That's
Yeah.
that would be the
Fair enough.
meme. Yeah.
Gang,
But
if we get
everything's transactional.
$69 in super
Everything's
chats, I'll make it happen.
there
Go
you
ahead.
go. Everything is transactional in our relationships, okay? And that's something we don't want to really face. You don't really want to face that because whenever you have like I said in the example with the happy birthday, they send you a gift, and then 1 year they don't give you a gift. You guys start falling away. Are you gonna still give that gift to them? Probably not. You're probably gonna think second guess. You're gonna think, well, you know what? Maybe they're not talking to me anymore. We're not really friends anymore. Should I really go out there and be friendly to them? Right? There is something there. We are a transactional social species.
Marlo,
I'm
Yeah.
gonna jump in just
Cat.
briefly to say
No.
transactions set a base. Wait. I'll say one thing. Transactions set a baseline for like minimums in relationships. Sure, there are additional things like we load additional value for people that we're personally invested with. Sex with your wife is better than sex with a prostitute. But if you make that calculation, sometimes it's handy to figure out like where the imbalance is.
Yeah, like I try to balance out my relationship with Kung Fu Joe. He's a fucking idiot ass bitch, and when he speaks, my brain cells are dying. So I'm going to attack him viciously for these kind of things, right? This is something that I believe is one to one. Okay, it's a transactional.
I want to give it to Marlo. She had something to say. Go ahead.
Oh, we mostly covered it. I actually, can we? What are we disagreeing on right now?
I
I'm
have
not
no
sure.
idea.
The level.
Yeah.
We're just
Things-
talking. I'm just trying to make money, and this is the after
Look,
show.
really quick,
I-
can I ask the women on the panel really quick?
Go ahead, please.
What responsibility do you guys
How are
have
you
to
gonna ask
society?
yourself?
I mean,
Hold-
okay,
let him
can
ask
we
the- just real quick? Let him ask the
Great.
question. I didn't hear the
That
question.
was
Can you
a-
repeat the
that
question?
repeat the question?
Yeah, that was brilliant. Yeah. What? Okay, you know how men have the duty to kind of like protect society. What duty do women have to society?
If I can answer that, right?
To
Men
create it, you moron. What do you
Create
I mean,
it?
yeah. I mean,
How do
yeah.
you
That's
create
true.
it without men?
So
You're antisocial.
we
No.
we
What
carry
can you contribute to society without men?
literally
What do you mean?
children. Yeah, like
You
what
think
can
we need you?
What? No.
There's plenty
Without
of
men. Without
of
men.
sperm
What can
banks
you contribute to
around.
society without men?
What do you
Society?
contribute to society without women?
I can be
Society is a
drafted and I can
collectivist
fight
concept.
way
Oh
more.
my
Yeah,
God,
but you're
this
but you
Oh
draft.
my God, dude.
what's
Why
the
are you
point?
dodging the
Literally hitting
question?
everything on
Why
the
are you
Andrew
I'm just gonna
dodging
raise
it?
my
Don't
hand.
dodge
I'm
the
just gonna raise my
question.
hand.
Bro, you're not Andrew
Don't
Wilson.
dodge the question.
If I can just raise-
into a war
I'm just
without
gonna raise
it
my
being
hand.
voted in by women.
dodge
So,
my
like,
question.
there are no genderless societies or monogender societies. Such a shitty question.
It is a shitty question.
No,
If I can just
it's
say,
simple. It's what
Me.
duty do you have to society? Do
it's
It's
like,
women have a duty to society? Yes or no?
what is your duty
Every
to
duty
society?
you have.
Yeah.
What? I'm just asking the question. What duty do you have to
He's
society?
a troll. He's just a troll.
Every duty
What?
It's not
that
troll. No, answer the question.
I'm
every
sorry.
duty that you have.
And every duty I have, but
Mhm.
you can't serve every duty I can do.
Neither can you.
Why
You can't carry a child for
No,
9
yes,
months.
I can. Yes,
No,
I
you
can.
can't.
I could beat up 4 of you.
Okay, but you can't
Oh, well,
carry a child for 9
don't
months.
with you
Okay,
in-
so there you go. So that's the duty, right? That's the duty that you guys can
If you
do for
choose,
society. So
if you
have
choose to, there are
children,
plenty
right?
of there are plenty of men who choose not to protect people, right?
Right? No, that's a red herring. Okay,
It's not a
what
red
I'm saying
herring.
is what they do.
No,
Yes,
I'm
it
jumping
is.
in here. I'm jumping in here. It's such a shitty, stupid
One.
question. Hey, Sophie,
1 for 1.
topic switch. Sophie, you talked a lot of shit in chat I saw earlier regarding my positions. I want to hear them. Because Dr. Darko is too much of a pussy to jump in. So you got to stand in for him.
Oh, like how you were saying, like you put that you were bi and multiracial so that you could shave time off of your job
what's wrong
search.
with that?
Yeah, that's ridiculous. It's wrong because it's just not true. But I mean,
It
I
is
also
true.
understand
I'm
that's
half white.
I understand that's anecdotal. So I just offered an anecdote of my own that I am 100% black. And yeah, I had a very difficult
You
time
win.
trying to find a job
Next one
recently.
loses.
I'll just
tells you
say,
how much
I'll
John
just
Morgan
say
is
back
right
when
now.
I was
Marlo's
A
working,
black
Yeah.
woman cannot get hired.
if I can just say a couple of things. I do want to address Kung Fu Joe's point at some point, but I do have to say that back when I was doing the 9 to 5 thing and when I would apply to jobs, I have a very ethnic name, and I'll tell you, as soon as I changed my resume and I just made it initials and then initials in the last name, then I got significantly more callbacks. But
Absolutely. There's studies
Indians
about that.
famously
Yeah.
not getting hired anywhere right now. Come
but
on.
well, no, this is from years ago. So anyways, what I was it may have changed, but for the most part, like years ago, that was generally my experience. But again, that's anecdotal, so who knows. I guess what I would say in response to Kung Fu Joe here is like, the question about like what do women contribute to society? What is the point of protecting people if you don't have the ability to even reproduce, right? And I'm sorry, but men
Who are you
just can't.
protecting them from?
No, hold on. So this is a great point. This is
Men
a
just
great point.
don't.
So
Men men
yeah,
don't
no, you're
men
making my
don't
point
wait, but
for me.
also
You're
wait a minute, let me finish what I'm saying. Men also, who are they that is a good question. Like, yeah, you're protecting, what is the point of protecting anything if there's like nobody to protect? And also, like, who are the people you're protecting them from, right? And that is true,
No, I
right?
get. No, hold on. This is perfect. This is perfect because it adds to my point, right? So you're
Yeah, but not
admitting
every
that the main.
man
Hold
protects
on,
women.
hold on. Let me respond. I just let you talk. Let me respond.
No, I'm not
So
finished
look,
with my
you're
point though,
admitting.
right? I'm
Oh
not
my
finished with
God.
my
Okay,
point.
fine. Keep going.
So not every man protects women, right? And in fact, I would say tons of men benefit from the fact that there are bad men out there, right? Because there are bad men out there who will enact violence, who will do bad things, and because good men are the ones who we have to rely on, they actually benefit off of that, right? I do think good men benefit off of the fact that there are bad men because they know that we have to rely on them, at least in the physical strength category.
Stardust,
So
just real quick. Stardust,
hold
just
on,
real
really
quick. Hold on,
real
stop,
quick.
please.
Let me reply
Stardust,
to this.
no. Stardust, I have to ask a question on this.
yeah.
Doesn't that work for women too? Women benefit, good women, like benefit from the fact that there are evil, manipulative bitches out there, right?
But
Like,
it's
we
not
don't
even
want
in the
those.
same, it's
We
not
want
even the
good
same
women.
extent though,
So
right?
the good women get more status, get more
wait a minute.
ability
Even
to...
evil manipulative women do not lead to the same amount of death as physically abusive men do. They just don't. I'm sorry.
Oh, I
Physically
beg to
abusive
differ.
men are, pregnant women.
Well, this is something that's talked
No,
that's
stop. Shut up.
Okay, I'm
One
just
third.
saying.
Marlo, hold on, shut up. Marlo, do you agree with Stardust in this?
Yeah, I just said skill issue.
Okay.
I mean,
but no,
Hold on
I
really
mean,
quick.
I'm
Well,
never
no,
going
it's
to.
because
Hold on.
it's because how men and women are okay. If you look at the studies going on with how do women or how do little girls bully each other at school? They go around saying, "Oh, we're the best friends ever," and then they will go behind a tree and say, "I fucking hate you, little bitch. You're so ugly." Versus guys, we go up and say, "Fuck you, bitch," and we start fighting. Right? We express our toxic traits in a very different way. Okay, and this kind of speaks to that, Wick, where women, yes, are not going to do as much harm if we're talking about killing people or a drain on society as much as a toxic man will.
But the number one threat to a woman's safety is usually within her home. It is usually a man who has the ability to physically beat her up. And I'm not somebody who's ever said that, oh, men and women are physically equal and I can beat up as many men as men say that they can beat me up. No, I'll tell you right now, like 9 times out of 10, most
beat up?
None, literally none. Okay, most men could probably I would fucking die. I would fucking die. I literally, I know. I know I would fucking die.
I think Nelson got it from here. Nelson, good luck, buddy.
Most women could probably. Wait a minute. Most women could probably kill me. Okay, like I'm not gonna deny that. Are you fucking kidding me?
Did
Like
Marlo
what?
kill you?
Marlo could kill me. Yes, absolutely.
Not a fair question to her.
Absolutely, Marlo could kill me.
25%
I have no survival instincts.
Chat, real quick. How much would you donate if I made Marlo and Stardust fight?
You're interrupting my point here. Okay, you're interrupting my point. The number one, I literally would die. Okay, most people could beat me up and kill me. Okay, I have no illusions about that. Okay, but the number one risk to a woman is usually within her home.
gang
The
sign?
number one killer of women is usually an intimate partner or somebody in her family, right? Like like yes, men they are our protectors, but they are also our number one threat.
Is the
Okay,
argument
no,
here?
we're not talking to the
Responsibility,
death
pick a
here,
better
gang.
man.
We're talking 3 rounds. Okay, 3 rounds. Boxing. How much would you guys pay to see that? I'm just really curious. New person, go ahead. I'm curious what you have to say.
You know my name. I'm Carl.
Oh, Carl.
Stardust, wouldn't it then be the responsibility of every man and woman to then pick better men and pick better women?
I mean, we could pick better men and pick better women, but a lot of the times women don't even realize that their partner, a lot of women experience domestic violence for the first time when they're pregnant. Okay. So imagine you go through a multi-year relationship and you, for the very first time, experience domestic violence when you're pregnant. That is so fucked up. Right? Like, it's just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. And how many women die while they're pregnant from domestic violence, right? So, I
Right,
mean,
what's the leading cause of
Many.
death for pregnant women?
people will say that
It's men.
people will say that like, oh, women women benefit off of terrible women too. It's not nearly in the same extent, not at all. I'm sorry, like men are not dying to the same extent that women are dying at the hands of men.
Make that argument. What's the point of dating then?
Well, we hope that
We should just give up.
no, we shouldn't give up.
The point
We
of
shouldn't give
dating
up.
is titties.
We shouldn't give up.
okay?
No,
Let's have
I
money.
highly
That's
recommend.
right, Rich. It's titties.
No, we
Here's a
shouldn't give up,
question of
right?
accountability
The thing
for you.
Ass
If
is
you've
way
been
better,
called
anyway.
on the statistic that you got wrong previously on a panel and you still refuse to just stop repeating it, hey, 2/3 of the women who have experienced domestic violence while pregnant did experience it prior to their pregnancy.
No, I said 1/3. I think I didn't even say 1/3. I said there's a
you
huge
said
percent.
most.
said
No, I
most.
didn't say. I did. Did I say
Am I
most? I didn't.
crazy?
I thought she said
Maybe-
most myself.
I think that you said most. I think
Yeah, I
it
heard
could just be
most.
habit from the
Are you
last time that you
acting
said
like
most.
a third of women experiencing this is
No,
a
if
little
I
bit?
said most, I did not mean most.
Oh, when
If
did
I
I
said
say
most,
that?
But why
I
are we
would
gonna
say.
argue the
ridiculous.
semantics on this? That's
Wait a
a
minute.
horrible
Wait a minute. I'm so
statistic
sorry.
regardless.
I'm so
Semantics.
sorry.
You know why?
Wait a
You know
minute.
why
Wait a
it's not
minute. Let me
semantics? Because
pause.
the leading
Pause.
cause
Pause.
of death when
Pause.
pregnant
Pause.
used to be the actual pregnancy.
Pause.
Men
Pause. Pause.
moved
Pause.
in
Pause.
and said, we're going to set up a system,
True,
the most
true.
advanced
Homicide.
hospitals, the
Right.
most advanced medical staff, the most attention
Did-
given, family leave, maternity leave. We give them special privileges, as they should have within society. So
can I-
now it's a tiny subset of men who are criminalized, by the way, and are punished extremely harshly within the system. Even in states where abortion is legal, if you kill a pregnant woman,
Can
there
I?
are quite a few
Okay.
where you can be jailed for double homicide in that instance. This is not permissible behavior.
If
Okay,
I can,
Sarah,
if I
finish.
can,
Yeah,
I'm
go
not
ahead.
saying it's permissible behavior. I don't remember saying most, but if I did, that's definitely not what I meant. I apologize. Okay,
Okay, that's
I
just
would
totally
say,
fine.
I would say a
Perfect.
significant. I think what I usually try to say is that a significant portion of women experience domestic violence for the first time when they are pregnant. I usually say that because I forget the exact number that is 1/3, but whatever. And then so I say a significant portion usually, but what I would say is that yes, men are punished very harshly for domestic violence when it's reported, right? But that doesn't change the fact that again, some of the biggest dangers to women are within their own home, and that doesn't change the fact that like saying that men are the protectors, that's their duty, and women's duty is to have children. Like I don't think that really runs. There are plenty of men out there who don't do any protecting. They do the opposite.
Just a housekeeping thing, real quick, before I want to hear from Dusty here. He hasn't been saying much, and I want to give him a chance to jump in if he needs. Um, and again, if I don't do this for free, I'm an expensive date, gang. If we don't get about $50 in the next 10 minutes, I'm gonna shut it down. So send in your super chat, send in your bits, send in your subs. I know Dusty. We're gonna pass the mic to him, and we're gonna see what we got. But remember, give me your money, gangs. This is a hold up. and you will give me your money. I'm holding this panel hostage. Okay.
It's a dangerous
Go ahead.
man.
Dusty.
I guess I don't have a lot of these things seem like they're not societal issues at all, like they're individual couple issues, and that it should be left up to the individual couples. That we as outsiders shouldn't really be meddling in people's business. To me, also about feminism that was mentioned earlier is creating equality for men and women. I think that it achieved that end. But then, what do you do once a movement has been successful and achieved what it set out to do? I think that after that, it becomes destructive.
I don't think it's achieved its end personally. So, uh,
What
you know,
is it that you think it hasn't achieved?
I think legally, we're equal, right? But then we've still got like cultural inequalities on both ends, right, for men and for women.
But if we are just real quick, Stardust, if we're legally equal, then shouldn't legal protections be done away with?
What do you mean?
Well, if it's already achieved the end of legal equality, which you said
Mhm.
it did, then shouldn't we? Okay, we don't need these
No, we
we
would
don't
need
need
to
these
maintain
rules
them.
or these
We would
laws or
need to
these
maintain
things
them, right?
anymore. Right?
The whole point of it is maintaining it, right?
Is it?
Feminism, unfortunately, women's equality is not the default state of the vast majority of human societies, right? And that's why we legislate these things. That's why we, the only way to protect women from a governmental stance is to legislate equality in the laws, right?
That's the way
Then
that
we
they
can.
protect everybody.
How far should it go?
I'm sorry.
That's how governments protect everybody. That's not
Yeah,
unique
well, I
to
mean,
women.
yeah, but it's not the unique. It's not the default state of societies, right? Like the vast majority of societies did not do these things. So
I
yeah.
want to
We're not
give it
living
to
in the vast
Marlo
majority of
because
societies. We're
Marlo.
living today here in America, right?
Sure, yeah,
So
but I
I'll
would
ask again,
say
what specifically is unequal about for women that needs to be addressed still by feminism?
I think that there are like examples would be research funding, right? Research funding is something that you see way more money funneled into research into men's health problems than into women's health problems. There's also like obviously just different cultural standards that we have for men versus women. We still have like obviously the gap in like violence and things like that. So I mean, yeah, there are a variety of things, and there are things also
We
for
need to
men that men are
increase women's
disadvantaged.
violence.
So
Let's equal.
yes, I would like to
I want to
increase
give
women's
the
violence. So
awesome. Speaking of increasing women's
No.
violence, Marlo's got her hand up. She's being very obedient. So go ahead.
I'm just
Very
gonna
submissive. Very
jump in
obedient.
and say that I think that we've kind of beaten this horse past its death, and it's been a pleasure, and you're all super great, and I love you, and I gotta go. Bye.
it's nice to meet
Bye-bye.
you.
Okay.
Yeah, we probably have beaten it to death, but I'm ready to beat some more. So yeah.
I mean, you can start by beating that question I asked you. What is the point of dating?
Oh, no, yeah, I didn't get the chance to answer that. I'm sorry. I think people still want to find their partners, right? And even if there's like risk out there, if there's risk to going out there and meeting people and dating people, like you still do it because the end result like is still worth it, right?
So you agree that's a screening process, right?
Yeah, of course it's a screening process.
So wouldn't it be the case that most of those women that you cited would not see violence in a relationship if they then use the proper screening process to get to know the men that would then potentially impregnate them and become sires to their children?
I think it's a little bit more complicated than that, right? Because when men and women are taken advantage of by their partners every day, and they see things through, rose-tinted glasses. I always advocate for women to like read "Why Does He Do That?" the book "Why Does He Do That?" Because I think that's a great, starting point to look for red flags, right? But screening. Sure, but again, there are always going to be people who fall through the cracks, right? And yeah, I don't know what to say. So, yeah.
So if dating is a screening process, then you can agree that it is in fact the responsibility of the people in the relationship to come forward to the person they're talking to, get to know them, tell them up front, this is what I want out of a relationship. Do you want this? And if they don't, sorry, can't do it. Nice sex. We're moving on.
Of course, but like also at the same time, I of course 100% agree with that. But also it's also on the responsibility of people themselves to not be shitty, right? So, yeah.
And to
Of
not
course.
lie.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, that'd be the point. So you can't really just wave a statistic around and say women get beat in relationships, therefore. Because then my question is, Feminism wants to do the legal job to maintain their rights, to make sure they don't get abused in the court system,
Well,
right?
sometimes a beating is attractive. Let's be honest here.
This is one of those
And
things
once
that
I don't
already
think
has
so. I think
accounted for in the law.
You just
I
want to
think
drop
that
that
you're
grenade and just walk away. You fucking piece of shit.
So how far should the law go, Stardust?
I think that
How far should the law go in behalf of women?
on behalf of women, I think in general that we should just strive to be equal before the law. We shouldn't have laws that make one maybe more, above the other, right? But we should like try to through policies maybe, fill in the gaps where there are gaps, right? But I'm not saying I've never said that like that women can't do better processes of screening. I just don't think that we have women who women don't typically read that literature. Women aren't necessarily always educated about these things, and neither are men, right? Men aren't necessarily educated about like what's acceptable behavior in a relationship, right? So, or women, right? It comes down to people like picking up more slack, right? But I highly recommend Why Does He Do That? The book Why Does He Do That for women to read.
Carl,
$2
can I ask you a question?
in a
Oh, sorry, go
moment. $2 from my listening library to see people can lie to get through screening. Thank you for the $2. Now you can ask Sophia. Go.
Well, I was just wondering, there's this trend now with women basically just opting out and saying, "Fuck it, I'm not gonna date, and I'm not gonna have kids. I'm not gonna get married." And men seem to hate that too. Where do you fall on women not dating?
They don't care because those women made a choice, just like those men made a choice.
I do
Well, then
care.
maybe
I
that's the
think it
solution
sucks.
then.
I think
It's
that
just
like people were asking
A little
earlier,
depressing.
like
Yeah.
what duty do women have to society? I think that women have, men do have like a protection duty. Men have like a competence duty. I like having that kind of responsibility placed on
Do
me.
women have a
Frankly,
duty to
let's strive for
slut it
good
up
stuff.
then? Eh?
When it comes to
It's not a
when it comes to
duty.
Not a
women,
duty, but
I
we
think
appreciate
that
it.
hold on, I'm going
Fair
to
enough.
continue.
Yeah.
When women go in here, I think that look, I think that you have a general duty to be pleasant because it's nice to receive compliments from women. Frankly,
Should
I
women
trust their
smile more?
standards for attractiveness much more than
And
you
mine.
have
men smiling
lovely
more.
hair,
Love it
Such
when
a
you tell them
troll.
that.
Nelson.
God.
That's no, I'm being completely
I
serious. I
look.
think
Let's
that you do
explore
have a
this a little
No,
general
no,
bit.
no. I
I'm
was
duty to be
talking to
curious,
Wick.
pleasant.
right?
I'm
In
sorry.
the 5 minutes we have before I shut this down, like if like that might be. I'm going to steel man this take. I don't know if I believe it, but I'm going to steel man this take that women have like just like men have a duty to be protectors, to be honest, to be providers, etc. Women have a duty to be little sluts for us. Okay. That
They
might
are
be
already. They
true.
like being it. What do you mean? If you look at Instagram, that's fucking like
Yeah, they're
99% of the
fulfilling their
content.
duty. They're doing well. Go,
Okay.
bravo,
Awesome.
women.
Yeah.
Well,
Seriously,
people like
especially the ones I
Carl
follow on.
who
Like, well, no, I
hate
won't say that.
women.
But
I
no,
never said I
bravo,
hated
women.
women.
Like you're doing a great job. Okay.
You
I've
didn't
never
have
said
to
I
say
hated
it,
women.
sweetheart. You didn't have
Then
to
why
say
did a
it.
woman choose me to be the responsible parent to her child?
That's
You're
a
making
good
grand
question.
assumptions. You're making grand assumptions without maybe even being on camera.
So what I will
Continue.
say is, what I will say is that
Damn,
I
that's
don't.
crazy. Black gay should have black woman up just like that. That's crazy. Damn.
I have no idea what's going on right now. But what I will say, I have
A
no
black
idea
woman
what's
was
going on right
corrected.
now. But what I will say
That's okay.
is
Sorry. Go
that
ahead. Go ahead.
I
Actually, when a
don't.
black woman speaks, I personally listen.
I do too, actually.
I think they listen. It's not been like hard. It's never been easier to get a leg up compared to the competition nowadays. I'll say
I have
that.
no idea what's going
So I
on right now.
sympathize.
I have no
Okay,
ideas what's going on.
$5 from my listening library to say actual vol cells are not a net negative to society because they don't hate people for succeeding in the dating market. We
Correct.
confuse incels and vol cells. I have an issue with that take. I disagree. I think actual vol cells are a net negative to the society because I think society would be enhanced with more options in the dating
Correct.
market, both for men and women.
Yeah, I'm opting out of society, so it's like totally fine. It's like, no, you're obviously going to have like some kind of antisocial component to that. I don't think it's good. I think people generally should be. Some people are too extroverted. Some people are too friendly with other
And on
people
top of
and have
that,
too much of an unearned familiarity with other people. But I think that introversion on the whole. Whatever we can do to scrape away at that just a little bit. I think we've gone too far in the other direction.
If I can,
No,
I just want to finish up with one thing because I think it's my time to go soon. But I just want to say, like, again, I want to really reiterate this. Well, first, I want to revise one statement that I made, right? I don't know that necessarily men and women have inherent duties to society, but it's really, really nice if they can do these things, right? And if you know, it's really, really nice if men can be protective, right? Know that they are the ones who have the bronze, right? They're the ones who that is something that I can never do, right? Just like similarly is really, really, really nice if women choose to have kids, right? Because that's something that most men can't do, right? But I would say, if I can reiterate one point that I really just want to drive home, is that I'm never going to say that men and women are exactly the same, right? I'm never going to say that. Even I don't even know if it's true that they're you know, the same as far as like what they like or you know, without socialization, right? It might be the case that there is some biological component. Who knows, right? And obviously there's a difference between men and women in on average our sizes and our strength, right? But the point is that despite these differences that we should celebrate and appreciate, women and men should be seen as morally equal in general in society, right? One is not worth more than the other necessarily, right? And if that is the case, if you view women and men as these morally equal beings and equally valuable people, then we want to protect the ability for these people to make choices with their life that they choose. We want to protect, you know, again, most societies are not, you know, have not been equal societies in history. So, yeah.
Okay, well, we're
We got a
getting
dance party
down.
going on.
Getting dance
Yeah, I
party.
had to turn on.
Yeah.
I
hear
had to
the
turn on
song.
the camera so that somebody would stop accusing me of being an incel, falsely. Horrible. I wouldn't do that too much.
I think, yeah, your dancing has proved that. You're like an interpretive bird.
Look, you probably get mad pussy, bro. Okay, with those dance moves, I can totally
One
see
woman.
it.
From
Yeah,
one
You
woman.
mean
fair enough, right? Like,
fleshlights? Okay, sure.
Bro.
hey, look, all good.
I don't.
Okay,
I'm
wait,
not
I'm here.
endorsing this. I'm not endorsing this fighting here. Okay, I don't endorse the
Okay.
attacks on either one of these people. Okay,
Yeah, let me grab this thing. Yes, the
I
flashlight.
do
I'm
not
just
endorse
saying,
that.
look,
I am all
okay,
about friendship and
okay,
happiness.
okay, everyone,
That's the flashlight, right?
everyone. Okay, we haven't reached the goal, so that means I'm going to take away your toys and we're going to end this panel. I wanted to say, thank you to everyone
That flashlight,
who
right?
came today.
That one?
Okay. Whoa. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm
What
so
did he just
confused.
okay.
I don't know what's
Thank you
going
to
on.
everyone who came
He's proving his
around
wife's a
today. I do
fleshlight.
appreciate all of you. Thank you to my panelists,
The only good
especially
thing for white
for
women.
putting up with all the stuff. And thank you to the callers. Thank you to the people who donated. What do we got coming up tomorrow? Yes, tomorrow we're gonna have an open call-in show. All things that you want to talk about, news of the day. I'm sure a lot of you are going to have issues with some of my takes on the ice shooting and all that has happened. Apparently, Bavino has been demoted and removed from his position. So that's news.
Fuck that bitch. Sorry.
I guess
Agreed.
that's going to be tomorrow. My co-host will be Ice Beans, the lovely Ice Beans. She's always a pleasure. She will be co-hosting with me.
AKA
And then
Thin
on
Stardust.
and then on mini
That
Stardust.
is fucked up.
And then on
That's
Thursday.
fucked up, Stardust.
And then on
Seriously.
Thursday, just
Come
let
on
me
now.
finish my promos here, okay? I'll be real quick. And then Thursday, at 6 p.m. Eastern, we're gonna have on Gen Z Attorney. We're gonna have Ryan Mullally. We're gonna have Soy Pill, and we're gonna have Sid, and they're gonna be talking about all things ICE and pertaining to the Preddy shooting. We're gonna talk about sanctuary cities. We're gonna talk about whether you have a moral obligation to obstruct ICE agents, right? All that and more. Tune in 6 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern Thursday. And if you have topics you want to discuss and you want to be on a panel officially, DM me with things that you want to talk about, things that you enjoy talking about and your stances on, and we'll see what we can do. Always looking for more stuff. With that, bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks, Wick.
Thank you, Wick. I have no idea what's going on. I just want to say everybody should be friends and stuff, except for that Kung Fu Joe guy. Fuck that guy. He can eat my entire ass.
Okay,
I'm
I'm
always
glad you
gonna
guys
go
are having
aggro
fun.
against him.
The entire
Thanks
paper.
again for coming on. Love you all. I'm gonna go. Bye.
Bye.
See you, buddy.
Okay. Chat, how are we doing? I did a whole panel with no makeup on. Well, I technically have makeup on. I have like concealer under my eyes, but yeah, that was fun. I hope you guys enjoyed. I obviously won the debate, right? Hi, Jekyls, how's it going? Star won. Absolutely, I won. On a debate about feminism, about women, and taking account of course I won. I tried Goat Star. Oh, did you like it? What did you think of it? You look good without makeup. Thank you. Well, I technically have makeup on. Anybody with a trained eye can tell, I think, that I have makeup. I have concealer under my eyes because otherwise it looks very dark circles. I wasn't here until the end, lol, but you seem the most collected for sure. I know how to ramble as well. So I really know how to ramble. I've done a lot of reading recently in feminism, and I've had a lot of thoughts about feminism recently, and just like liberalism in general, you know? Oh my gosh, thank you for the super chats, by the way. Example, unattractive would be clavicular. Oh, that was back then. Gilded Poo, thank you for the $2 super chat, says, on behalf of all men, Mr. Foo is an embarrassment. And then Galileo, thank you for the $4.99 super chat. Thank you so much. It was great. Almost made me forget how cute they are. How cute? What is? I'm so confused. I would say, I don't know. I've been doing a lot of thinking about feminism and just liberalism in general. And, you know, in some sense, I'm still kind of grappling with my own thoughts. Everyone on the panel sucked. You had no real pushback, lol. Or it could just be that I fucking rock, Gilded, okay? The one guy with the starry ring around his picture seemed to have serious unresolved disdain. The goats were great. Almost made me forget how cute that. Yeah, goats are so cute, but they do taste really good. They do taste really good. So obviously I'm a liberal, right? I'm a moderate liberal, though. I would say I'm more moderate than my peers. I think the stance that I operate from is, obviously like liberalism as an ideology is probably the best ideology. The ideals of liberalism, right? Individual liberty, autonomy, these are things that I think are obviously like good, right? Have you read Rawls? Probably a really long time ago. A really, really, really long time ago. I think that it enables also minority groups to have equal rights where they are, things like that, right? I think the part where I'm struggling right now is I'm trying to figure out, I know that I'm a liberal interventionist. I know I'm pro-intervention. I just don't know what level of intervention I am, right? Because I'll listen to people who are like unilateralists, and I'll be like, they make some pretty good arguments. But then I think about it and I'm like, I'm not really a unilateralist either. Like, obviously, yes, like America being the superpower allows us to basically bypass everything if we want to. But I feel like that's something that we should really only exercise. It allows us to bypass every international law too, right? It's not something that I think we should exercise on a regular basis. I think it's something that we should be really selective about what we do, right? When we're doing that, right? I feel like in most cases, like establishing these organizations like NATO, I think it's important for us to like establish those and continue to build up those institutions, right? But I don't know. But I am an interventionist 100%. I think women's rights is a great example, right? Women's rights is not just an option. It should not be an option anywhere in the world. That is half the population right, being held down. The way that we protect these values that we've learned are good values, right? The way that we protect these values and make sure that strong men don't come in and take them away is for us to be strong militarily and for us to be interventionists when needed. So, yeah, that's I guess that's my stand. Like I don't know, but I'm still very much like I don't know if I'm a unilateralist or not. I'm somewhere in between, you know? I'm very much into like muscular liberalism though, you know? We should not allow people in our society that want to destroy it. I don't know. Bro was so triggered about hypothetically getting drafted. Sounded like he was too unstable to get past the health exam anyway. That's what I was saying. I'm like, the guy is too fucking fat, and I bet he's flat-footed. I bet he can't get drafted anyways. And then it's always the same argument with those guys, though. It's like, oh, you guys don't get drafted, so you shouldn't have a vote. Well, we're not against being drafted. Well, I don't even want you as part of my military anyways. Okay, well, do you want more men able to do better things? Like... And women make better doctors. They just do. Okay, I don't know if that's a socialization thing or if it's an inherent biological thing. I'd like to think that it's not inherently biological, but who knows? And there's another thing like I was thinking about when I was like reading on feminism recently is like women are inherently different creatures than men, right? Like it's funny, you know, I'll remember some of the things that Lav said and I'll be like, oh, I know where that's from now. Or at least not some of it I already knew where it was from, but like a couple of things where she said, I'm like, okay, yeah, no, I know because I've just recently read that author. Recently she tweeted something out like, oh, women are multiplicities or whatever, right? Women are you know, we are more than just one thing, right? Our very nature is different. Like it just our existence is different from men in such a huge, meaningful way. Yet society has been built around men. The one thing I have a problem with that type of feminism, that like difference feminism, is it does seem to like really buy into a lot of like more Marxist thinking, and I'm not really a Marxist, you know. Beyond the idea of like analyzing things through that lens, you know, but you know, it is true, like society was built through men's lenses, right? And through men's power. And so like the fact that we haven't built our own vocabulary around things, our own experiences are not really the way that we would describe them, right? I don't know, but women are not obsessed with their private parts like men are. Women have a better ability for critical thinking. I do think that there is a little bit of that. I might be a little bit sexist in that, you know, women, we know that women in general, based on every stage of a woman's life, her libido is not nearly as high as a man's, right? And even at the stage where men's libido is the lowest and where women's is the highest, it's still not equal. Men still have more libido. That could be partly socialized, right? There could be a lot of men out there who pretend to really enjoy sex way more than they do. That could be a thing. But at the same time, I do think that, you know, I do think that men and I'm not against difference. I do believe in some of the tenets there, like that men and women are inherently different and more than just the physical, right? And a more like spiritual way, right? I don't know, but in a more internal way. But again, that doesn't mean that like the way that we would change things, the way that we enforce, you know, sex and gender equality is still through liberal feminism. I don't understand the demonization of liberal feminism. Liberal feminism is just the way that we do these. Like we have laws in place to enforce this because the standard we should all be pro-liberal feminism, by the way. I don't understand people who are not pro-liberal feminism, which is liberal feminism is literally just using the law to protect women's rights. I don't understand that whole thing where it's like, oh, we shouldn't even be concerned about women's rights when our whole vocabulary we haven't even had a chance to build our own worlds and our own world of vocabulary and all of that. At the end of the day, might makes right. That is the rule of the world. And the only thing that has been effective in combating that is a strong nation and a strong military and a strong legal framework that protects the rights of marginalized or disadvantaged, people, right? So, yeah. Anyways, that's kind of like where I've been recently. My main conflicts in my brain are about how much of an interventionist I am. And then also, I guess I'm just really building a more robust framework of feminism in my head. Because before, I was younger, I knew I was a feminist. I knew I wasn't a socialist, but, I'll say generally most people I don't think too deeply into these things, but I feel like I've really in recent months built out a whole system of things that I believe in, so it's interesting. But I mean, at the end of the day, despite men and women being so different, and like I said on the panel, I don't know why that guy was so insistent about oh, I could beat up 4 of you. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock. I couldn't beat up anybody. I can't beat up anybody. I'm literally the weakest person in the world, okay? I honestly, I have shit survival skills, okay? My survival instincts are garbage, okay? I'm weak as fuck. I'm shorter than the average person. I have no illusions, okay? I don't know why people have to remind me I could fucking beat you up. Yeah, I know you could. Why do you think I'm so cautious about dating? Why are the number one things I look for in a partner stability and safety, right? I'm not looking for a guy with a 6-pack. I don't know. Despite the fact that we're so vastly different, and trust me, nobody knows that more than me, that the vast difference between men and women, just physically, emotionally, socially, spiritually, we are still morally equal beings. We're still equally deserving of rights and the ability to enact change in our society and participate in democracy, So, yeah. What I said about making a less male-centric society, I don't know that we can rebuild society. I don't think we can rebuild society to make it less I think what a lot of different feminists prescribe, and I could be wrong about this because but a lot of them seem to think that, oh, we should just tear the whole system down because we're so different and we've been excluded for all this time. I don't think there's a way that we could tear the whole system down. I don't think we can rebuild society from a different framework. I think it is might makes right, and if we tear down the entire system, we're just going to be back at square one getting subjugated again, right? So, I don't know. But again, I'm just a baby, whatever, Everybody thinks that they know so much and then they don't. But I 100% believe in interventionism. That's something I think has gotten demonized way too much. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, what else is new? Nothing, right? I think I gotta go. I've been going and I don't know. It's my social life has become very, very active recently, which is good because I have no work-life balance. I've been making progress on various things. Oh my God, guys, you have to see this picture of Hillary Clinton thirst trap, okay? Open image in new tab. Let me do this. I have text messages to respond to. Mamma mia, mamma mia. Why am I getting tagged in Discord? Don't tag me. Look at this picture. Thirst trap. Hillary Clinton thirst trap. Hello? Hello? She has a fat ass, dude. Fucking love this. I retweeted this. Everybody needs to see this. Look at that. Oh, yeah. That's what I'm talking about. She's got a fat ass today, okay? I don't care what anybody says. I would hit that. She can, you know, she can militarily intervene on me, you know? So, hell yeah, dude. That's what I'm talking about. And look at those fucking, that diamond. Oh my God, look at the fucking jewelry. Whoa, what is she wearing here? Is that like, what is she wearing? What's on that? Is that Arabic? I don't think so. But look at those diamonds. Oh my God, when will I get a man who will buy me diamonds like this? Libyan star? Oh, interesting. What does it say? Somebody tell me what it says. I need to know. Cause I need to know. Beautiful, dude. What a beautiful picture. Beautiful. Oh yeah, she can Libya on my ass, dude. You guys like the current race war going on in Minneapolis? I would love to go to Minneapolis, by the way. I just don't have the funds to do it. Like, imagine a whole bunch of us, a bunch of streamers and YouTubers get together and we all go to Minneapolis and film things. Oh my God. I would love to do it. I would get up and do it tomorrow, you know? I think pearls look better than diamonds. Yeah, but like the high quality pearls, dude. She can liberate my ass, dude. My parents bought me a gold necklace before the price spike last year. I do think it's super funny that like they were saying like, oh, whoever holds the gold is gonna hold all the economic power, and then it comes out that like Indian women hold more gold than like like a whole bunch of countries combined. So good performance. Stardust jumped in at the end to push the conversation forward at the end in the post panel. Oh, thank you, Carl. Well, good performance to you too. No, I like her. I like Sophia. Or was that her name? Sophie or something? I don't know what her name is. I like her though. Yeah, Sophie, I think is her name. I like her. I'm not complaining. When have I complained, Gilded? Okay. When have I complained? I've never complained in my life. Ever. In my entire life. I've never complained. When will I get a man to buy me a nice necklace like this, though? For real, for real. Wait, how much gold do Indian women hold? How much gold do Indian women have? Indian women collectively own a massive amount of gold, estimated at around 24,000 to 34,000 tons, representing about 11% of the world's total mined gold, primarily held as jewelry and heirlooms. This private hoard exceeds the official gold reserves of many major nations combined, highlighting gold's deep cultural importance for security, tradition, and wealth in Indian society, especially for women. I think I want to become an Indian woman. More, more gold than the combined reserves of countries like the US, Germany, Italy, France, Russia, and China? No fucking way, dude. No fucking way. It is a symbol of financial security, though, that's for sure. Like, people will give gold jewelry to their, like, wives in case things happen, so they can, like, it's like an investment or whatever. And it is integral to weddings and stuff, so. So more than the reserves, the combined reserves of the US, Germany, Italy, France, Russia, and China. There's no way that's true. There's no way that's real. I don't actually believe that's true. Indian wives own more gold than 5 world superpowers combined. I guess it is real. Oh my god. It's real. Okay, wait. The Clinton image is killing. It's so good, dude. Okay. Gold holdings bubble map. Indian households, 25,000 tons. More than the United States? No fucking way. I don't believe. There's no way that this is real. Damn, Nevaeh. Dude, this is real? Is this actually for real, for real? Oh my god. Image generated by author. By the way, in your opening, you called yourself a lowly streamer, but pronounced it lolly? Oh, I don't remember doing that. I guess I'm not remembering a lot of the things that I said today, because I could have sworn I'm usually pretty diligent about not saying, like, most women don't, you know, most women don't experience domestic violence until they're pregnant. I'm usually pretty diligent about that, where I usually try to say a significant portion of women experience it for the first time when they're pregnant. But I don't know, I guess today I'm just off saying all sorts of nonsense, you know? Yeah. So that's kind of crazy. Like, Indian woman supremacy, hello? Yeah, the Cold War was, yeah. I Googled everything you cited, like every study. I don't think I even named every study that I cited, though. Let's see. How big are Indian families' gold holdings? We did literally do like a 20-page document. I'm so happy I got to pair with Christy Winters, though. She's like a fucking legend, dude. She's like one of these like debaters back in the day. She smacked down Sargon of Akkad. She's such a legend in my head, you know? I'm so excited that I got to like work with her and pair with her for a debate, and it ended up being really nice, you know? I was on the fly fact checking. Okay. In India, families have accumulated, let's see. This isn't even including like the Indian diaspora. see here. What did you think of the girlfriend problem Gil did? That was something that I read about recently that was super, super interesting. The girlfriend problem. Criminal justice issue, where women, often girlfriends of or wives of drug traffickers, receive harsh, long-term federal mandatory minimum sentences for conspiracy despite having minimal, passive, or coerced involvement in the actual crimes. And then, yeah, the incarceration of these women often leads to broken homes, with children placed in the welfare system or with relatives. And then the actual men that they're dating end up getting like way less imprisonment time. Kind of wild. That's one of the things I cited in my in my opening statement was the girlfriend problem. I don't think on average it was fake though, right? I think that the Me Too movement was meant to hold powerful men accountable. Where it kind of started going awry is where people were trying to use it on just average dudes, you know, who don't have this disproportionate amount of power. So. Did I cite Me Too in my opening statement though? I don't think I did. I cited the two issues with one with alienation and then two with what's it called? The girlfriend problem with federal charges or whatever. Or not federal charge, but you know, war on drugs basically, and how it disproportionately affected the girlfriends and the wives of drug kingpins, and then the drug kingpins, because they had information to exchange, got way less sentences than their girlfriends and wives. So, not referring to the high-profile cases, like all three of them. Yeah, I'll say like, you know, I wouldn't say that the you know, on a lower level, there was also a lot of confusion because the rules of dating were changing pretty rapidly, right? And so people were misinterpreting what was just awkward and bad interactions as like malicious intentioned interactions, right? So, but I mean, that's not right either, right? Oh, here's the thing. Serving time for falling in love. How the war on drugs operates to the detriment of women of circumstance in poor urban communities of color. Yeah, I think the two things I cited were pretty sound, you know? And then there's that's one link. And then the other thing that I cited was family court alienation, which was, where's my document? Yeah, the Myers study. U.S. child custody. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I agree with that. I lost 10 pounds this month. Congratulations. And then there's this one. This is the other one that I cited for the parental alienation thing. Those are the two studies that I was basing my opening statement off of. Is there anything else? Yeah. Women can just make up allegations and it's not a crime, right? It's an actual issue. I mean, men can make up allegations too, right? And, you know, a lot of the issue with penalizing people, you know, making up allegations or whatever you want to call it. The issue with penalizing that is that it ends up becoming a chilling effect. We already have people who are really hesitant to come forward when they do have something done to them. And so it creates a chilling effect where it'll be even worse, right? I mean, there was a whole documentary actually done on one of these places where they did start penalizing people. And like the vast majority, it seems like, of the women that they were penalizing were women who were legitimately raped, but just decided that they didn't have enough evidence, so they decided to not go and press charges, you know? So. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to disagree with you, Gilded, because I think the vast majority of reported rapes are legit, you know? So. That was a fun panel, though. I would like to do that again. I like doing the 1v everyone. Okay, guys, I'm gonna go because it's been way past the time that I needed to go. So I sent a direct message on Discord, but was wondering if you would talk about this deeper because I missed the first half and I didn't understand testing the discussion properly. Thank you for the $10, Barbusa, the moderator. Yeah, I might talk about it. Are you in the Discord? You should join the Discord, and yeah, I'll reply to you when I get a chance. So. I'm not talking about police reports, I'm talking about people doing online campaigns. Oh, okay. That might be a bit different. That might be a bit different, Gilded. I might give you some ground there. I'll have to see. I think there needs to be a study done on that for me to really form an opinion, you know? But, yeah. But anyways, I'll see you guys later. Have a good one. I hope you